Please pray. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to, the meeting's a little bit different today because we did not have a quorum for the CPF potential acquisition last night, so we're putting that on for a special meeting to start off with, and we'll have that public hearing, and then we'll adjourn the special meeting and go into the work session for the public comments section. So the first item of business is opening the public hearing for 7 South Courtright Road. And did you want to read the notice?
Oh, we opened it last night. So
Oh, that's right, it's needed to be. Okay, very good. All right. CPF, we've got, oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, why we in part didn't have a quorum is because he needs to recuse himself, having just rolled off as chair. Thank you for reminding me of that. We do have the newly appointed chair as of last night, Dewey Bracement, here. Would you like to make any opening comments about this? It's up to you.
I don't really have an opening comment.
Okay.
It's a wonderful piece of property. It we worked very hard to bring it to fruition, and we're hoping that it will be passed today.
Well, I will open it up to the public, and I see Michael Gainey, you're first on the list.
Thank you.
And just, I'm going to do this for a little while. I've got something to say later. For anyone, when we're doing public hearings, we're asking that people address the topic and not people.
Sure.
We ran into a little bit of a problem last night, which I'm going to try and continue to work on. So I'm just
No problem.
not directed at you alone.
I get it. I usually come out guns blazing, and I don't plan on doing that today. I truly don't. Mike Gainer, 8 and 10 Cobbetts Lane. As most people know on the board, I've been actively trying to sell the development rights on my property on 10 Cobbetts Lane since 2019 when I first approached the CPF. I won't drone on about that topic because it's pretty common knowledge. I think I can summarize it and the nature of my statement about this particular transaction. That the administration under Gary Girth at that time, and then moving on to Jerry Siller's administration, we got into a major dispute about it, and it eventually got to a point where the town told me through their outside counsel, Zuckerberg, that the town would not purchase my development rights if they were available for $1. How would that make you feel about local government if somebody told you that? And so from that point on, I've been pursuing the veracity of the Community Preservation Fund. There's probably not another individual, I would say there's not another individual on this island that has analyzed more of the CPF transactions than I have. Professionally, everybody needs to know that in my professional background, I founded a company based out of Chicago called Brenham Nationwide, with the largest building and zoning code consultancy in the United States. And so on the topic of offering my opinion on this, I am absolutely an expert. I have seen more corrupt local municipal behavior in one lifetime than any other 10 individuals alive. And so I believe that the CPF in its current condition, and I'm trying to really rein in my comments here, I believe the CPF in its current condition, based on a collection of facts on very specific transactions, does not have the capacity to be recommending any transactions until the town board takes a close look at how the CPF is operating. We've gotten to a point on this island where these transactions are hovering at $3 million, was the most recent transaction on the Needham property. This particular transaction, $3.9 million. These are massive, massive real estate transactions where we have a board that's made up of a handful of representatives with no particular background in dealing with transactions of this scale, making these recommendations that are hard to wrap your head around. I work in municipalities all throughout the United States. This is a 3,000 person community. Never, trust me, never in the history of ever has a community of this scale deployed $6.9 million on real estate. To some extent, we're lucky to have those kind of resources to protect the land, and tons of wonderful things have happened as a result of that. But I've also seen and documented several instances of highly, highly questionable transactions where millions of dollars have changed hands for transactions that have not been vetted correctly. One of those specifically, 72 and 80 North Midway Road, I came here and confronted the board on that in September about that particular transaction, that the town hadn't followed some very basic protocols. If you were a CFO inside of a privately held company and you applied as much attention to that transaction as you folks did when you didn't review the appraisal on that property, you'd be ousted out of that company. But yet we passed that, and that transaction consummated in October of this month. After I came here and confronted the board on that on September 24th, within 3 hours of walking out of here, I got contacted by the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, Public Corruption Bureau, by Kevin Ward, the head of that department, and his assistant deputy, Laura Dio Olvera. They invited me to come into to the DA's Public Corruption Office in Hauppauge and be interviewed by two of their investigators, Chris Castle and Reinhard Anderson. I spent 2.5 hours inside of a windowless interrogation room answering questions about these transactions that are taking place out there. So I'm not the only one who's saying this stuff. Specifically, the two transactions at hand that we spent a tremendous amount of time, CPF transactions, were in December of 2019, where the town paid $2,055,000 to Sylvester Manor Educational Farm to preserve the development rights on a 16-acre parcel, which is directly across the street from the IGA, a parcel of land that was unsubdivided and owned by a not-for-profit corporation. Amber, I can see you're getting tired already. These are important facts. Okay, this isn't six folks hanging out at the Stars right now talking about something.
Like tying it back to this.
I'm going to tie it back to there. We'll get there in a heartbeat. I'm speeding it. This is the basis of my argument, is that the CPF board, not these folks specifically, many of them are very well intended, but the way this process is operating, given the scale of these transactions, the board needs to take a hard look at this. When we're doing $3 million transactions, we want to rush through it, and the legislation's already written up, and we do it a week before Christmas when nobody has a time to opine on it. There's something's wrong with that transaction. If you try to operate a private business that way and did $3 million transactions here and $3.9 million transactions here, when the entire budget for the board is what, $14 million? We're going to pass legislation like that. Something unthoughtful is happening inside of how we're processing these things. In any event, I got called in by the DA, and we reviewed those two specific transactions, the Needham property transaction and the Sylvester Manor transaction. I'll spend a little time on Sylvester Manor, and we will get on to this and why I think that this particular transaction needs to be further evaluated and should not be passed today. Specifically, on that property, that was a 16-acre parcel of property that was unsubdivided. Was not under the threat of development in any way. The only person who could have developed that would have been Sylvester Manor themselves. Could not be sold. It's unsubdivided. It'd be the equivalent of selling your backyard. You couldn't do it. Somebody drew an arbitrary line around a parcel of property that's directly across the street from the IGA. Nothing interesting about that land. There's no historical features to it, nothing. It could not have been developed. It wasn't subdivided. And in order to subdivide that land, they would have first had to go through Ian's planning process over there, which is not for the faint of heart, to get that land subdivided. Then anybody in this town could have challenged that. Absolutely anybody could have challenged that. Then let's say they made it through the entire process of got that subdivided before it could possibly been developed. Then as a not-for-profit corporation in the state of New York, in order to subdivide that property, you have to appeal to the New York State Supreme Court, and you have to get approval from the Attorney General for the state of New York. That's how much focus is placed on these not-for-profit corporations. There is a greater likelihood of somebody building a house on top of you, Amber, than ever developing that property over there. So there was no basis for that transaction to ever happen. That was the town giving $2,055,000 to their friends over at Sylvester Manor for no basis whatsoever. That land was never going to be developed. We discussed this at length with the district attorney's office. I went on to discuss the Needham property, where no appraisal was viewed for that property by anyone on this board That is highly, highly, highly unusual. And there are all sorts of aspects to that land where it was not buildable. And nobody inside of this community, certainly on this board, has the technical capacity to be looking at these things, let alone potentially members of the CPF board don't have the capacity. I'm simply saying, if we're going to go around passing legislation on $6.9 million of transactions in one calendar year, we should take a harder look at them. I don't think that's unreasonable to say. On to 7 South Cartwright. In September of 2018, the Novak property came up in front of the CPF. A community of neighbors over there came together from the Fresh Pond Neighborhood Association, and they said they wanted to do something good for their community. They said there was a house, a dilapidated house owned by the Novak family there. They were like, let's tear it down and build a kayaking and waterboarding area for the entire community to use. And all we need is 450 grand from the Community Preservation Fund. And they had the additional funds in order to go do that transaction from Peconic Land Trust. So they got buy-in from Peconic Land Trust. They took their own money to have a rendering put together. And the response from Gordon, from the CPF at that time, was adamant that this is a dangerous, those were his chosen words, this is a dangerous precedence. The Community Preservation Fund can't be going out and buying properties where there's homes on them and tearing them down. It's going to set a dangerous precedent. Al jumped in on that one and backed his buddy up and said, and I can't mention you because you did say that. You came in and you said, yeah, I don't think we should be buying this property either. And that didn't make sense to me at the time. Fresh Pond, there's all sorts of issues with the water there. Everybody's trying to do a better job to protect it. Why not take one more septic system out of the community and get rid of another home? Wouldn't that be a great thing? Gordon was adamant, and the Community Preservation Fund went on record, was adamant, fought tooth and nail. Everybody on the board voted yes for it except for Al. Why did that happen? What's changed inside of the community that now all of a sudden this particular property has a home, another building on top of it, and a tennis court on top of it? One of Gordon's big issues on that property was there's going to be tremendous environmental remediation costs on the Novak property. He was coming out of the woodwork with statements left and right about all these reasons that we can't do this property, that there's going to be costs associated to that. So if that's changed, I'd like to know why it's changed, okay? One of the reasons I think that it might be changing, I don't have the facts to corroborate this, but I think this is something the town should evaluate. Inside of this transaction, has there been a real estate agent involved? If there's been a real estate agent involved, the market rate for a real estate agent on the east end of Long Island is 6 points on the deal, which is $238,000 on $3.9 million. The last known real estate agent that would coincide with this particular property when it went off market in August, after the market looked at it for a year, it went from 4.8 to 4.5 to $4.3 million, and the market rejected it. Nobody bought the property, it was out there forever. Now all of a sudden, a couple of months later, Melina Ween's firm was representing the project right about the time when the CPF started engaging inside of this thing. Somebody, a real estate agent's firm stands to make a typical real estate contract inside of the state of New York has a 6-month tail inside of it. So if there was a real estate agent in communication with the Community Preservation Fund board on this thing, then that firm stands to make over approximately $250,000 on this transaction. If that's the case, what would happen in the private sector? We've all done this, we've purchased homes before. You negotiate that real estate transaction number down. If this is just a piece of land, the CPF just had to drive over there, look at it and say, we want to preserve a bunch of land. It's not like somebody was showing them the basement or anything. So shouldn't the board be taking a look at that cost, $250,000? If there's $250,000 built into that transaction inside of the fee, I bet the seller on the property would give up that number, and those would be dollars that wouldn't have to come out of the CPF, and it wouldn't have to go into the pocket of some real estate agent. At least we should be able to negotiate that. Those are the type of things that I see inside of these transactions that are not being closely looked at. Okay, those are my points today. Thank you.
Mary Siller? You need for the record, please.
Larry Seller, 168 North Ferry Road. Who? Aaron. Wow, let me just
read this. Walker Albert.
I did one.
Yeah, he's not supposed to get one.
Oh, it's up? Never mind.
Okay.
Okay, I'll begin. The CPF acquisition plan is mandated to be updated every 5 years. It has not been updated since 2019. A public hearing was held 1 year ago to present an updated plan, but was not approved, waiting for the new town board to act. To date, nothing has been done. So my first question to the town attorney is, are we in violation of this law, and can we in fact move forward with any purchases until this plan is updated? I don't expect any answers now. Number two, in my 4 years in office, this property was never up for discussion. It is listed as a Schedule 4 property on the current acquisition plan. Schedule 1 are priority properties, Schedule 2 are vacant lands, and Schedule 3 are all other lands of more than 3 acres. Compare it, as we just heard, comparing this property to the Novak property, the CPF committee voted unanimously to reject the purchase of the Novak property. And I'd like to read what Michael just said in the reporter. One reason to reject the offer is that the property is developed with a house and a garage on the site. The advisory board members noted that traditionally land bought with CPF money, especially small parcels, may be vacant, and purchasing a developed lot now would be a dangerous precedent. Mr. Gooding noted that once Mr. Novak's house is removed from the site, money would have to be expended for landscaping to buffer the Novak property from any adjacent residents whose owner objects to the town purchasing the property. Mr. Gooding added that after the Novak house and garage is removed from the property, it could reveal that the soil needs remediation, and no one knows what that would cost. The town needs to know the potential for any excavation of potentially hazardous material. Mr. Dixon agreed. So my question on that is, what exactly is the difference between these two parcels? Okay, so moving on from that, if the town agrees to purchase this property, I would like to know, is the potential there to put town docks there and appropriate parking to go with it? We have the town dock 2 parcels over on Condon Creek, and this would be an ideal spot to continue that. And then my last question is, again, Stephen, this would be for you. What exactly is the procedure to do a land swap? And by a land swap, I know there is wording in there to do this, to take land that the town already owns, that's not preserved, and swap it with with community preservation land to use for housing. I would like to know what the procedure would be and how to go about doing that. Thank you.
That's everybody who signed up to speak on this public hearing. Oh, sure, I was gonna say, so people who haven't, so come on up. I was just about to see if there was anybody.
In very general terms, one of the things that, I'm sorry. If you need Jerry do it, you gotta make me, Michael Shatkin. One of the things within the comprehensive plan the island prides itself on is the rural character of the island. It attributes that to zoning, which I'm going to say is slightly incorrect just by the math. And what I mean by the math is all of our residential lot sizes and our land that is allocated to residential, if they were fully built out according to our zoning ordinance, would create a suburban, not a rural environment. What makes Shelter Island rural is our ability to preserve land, which is, one packet or one bundle. And we've done really an incredible job at preserving land. And, people compare one site to another site. It just can't be done unless you're on the piece of land and fully understand the natural beauty and the amenities, the community at large. And to try and take one piece of property, like the Fresh Pond piece of property, which is a postage stamp size piece of property that was absolutely fully developed, and compare it to another property significantly larger that has the address escaped me for a moment.
South Carolina, yeah.
It's just not a fair comparison. If you walk that piece of property, you understand the scale of the meadow, you understand how it faces the creeks and the creek and just the natural beauty of that land. I mean, it's almost, like Taylor Island. I mean, it's that quality of property. And, if we were to go ahead and purchase this, which I hope we do, we will have another asset like Taylor Island, because it has that sort of wonderful island waterfront quality. But going back to the issue of our rural character, it's not the planning board, it's not the zoning board, it's not our zoning that does it. It's land preservation, plain and simple. And the land preservation that has been done by the committee is admirable, because it's not just a quantitative preservation, it's a qualitative preservation. We preserve some absolutely wonderful pieces of land. What we don't understand and don't fully appreciate is how much of the quote open space land that we have, which is in nonprofit ownership and is viewed and has been advised by a certain council that don't worry about this land. It's land that is not going to be developed. It can't be developed. Well, we've seen nonprofit parcels of land. The mission changes, the nature of the organization changes, and suddenly a piece of property that was a beautiful piece that we counted on as a piece of the community is gone. And that's a large percentage of the land on Shelter Island. So what we're talking about today in general terms is preserving a small piece, but it's a big uphill fight to maintain the character of the island. And it's being handled extremely well by this committee, and has been handled extremely well over the years. And we should look at it in terms of the big picture, the results, what has occurred, and the efforts of the individuals in the past to make this a success, and not creep into criticizing the committee because we don't like certain individuals or this particular acquisition. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Is there anyone in okay, I can't see who's first.
Wait, so the question is the county getting involved in this purchase, or is this all town money?
This one is all town.
It's all town?
Yes, yes.
So Jerry made an interesting point. Would, as far as access goes, would the town be able to set up town docks down there if it so chose to allow, if the community said, hey, we're gonna put in some more slips for some people and use it that way?
We have to investigate that. First, we have
That's like a
to
foundation,
unless you have a ready
Off
answer.
the top of my head, yes, you can put a dock there as passive recreation.
Right, okay.
Excuse me, when,
Come on up. So with microphone fix you.
Breaking all the rules, Jerry.
Yeah, well, we bought the property on Grandma, on the Causeway. We had this discussion with the county, and the county said we could put docks, but because we use county money, the county would be able to, county residents could also or rent the docks from us. So if the ability's there to do it, if we do it on our own, we wouldn't have to worry about county residents using the dock space.
correct.
Come on up.
I just want to clarify what I think was just said. So, first of all, we're doing it for preservation purposes, and the county, as I understand it, is not involved. The rules with regard to preservation purposes is passive recreation.
Mhm.
What we're just, I think, discussing You're not involved in passive recreation when I see you out on the water, are you?
He wasn't
I'm
told.
certainly not passive aggressive, but certainly.
You say it's for.
You have to address the board, you have to address the.
As I say, it has to, you
It's commercial fishing, so it's, it's an apples and oranges response.
No, that's not what it is.
Sit down, sit down.
Okay.
Sit down. You want to talk to me about it later?
Bert,
No, I'm sorry.
You know,
I'm sorry, I don't, I didn't mean that to be critical, it just meant, I'm sorry.
You're talking-
Michael.
you're talking to the
You're
board.
talking, yes.
Sit down. You don't like it, you don't like what we're saying about it.
Bert,
You're
I'm gonna, yeah, I'm gonna ask in a minute, you both can go outside and finish that
No,
conversation.
there's nothing here, I slipped into something, and that is that it's passive recreation is one thing, and another thing that docks get used for, and I won't mention any names or anybody that might be in other uses of docks, is commercial activities. And just that I want to make sure that when consideration is thought about with regard to the docks, that we know the limitations of this purchase. And I wasn't looking to start a Donnybrook by that comment.
Anyone else in the physical audience? Anyone on Zoom? Okay, then I'll make a motion to close this public hearing. Second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. All right. We will adjourn the special meeting, because we'll go back in later, because we do have some resolutions that need to be, public hearings to be set and things. Yeah, I just saw Christina. So the next, in the work session, the first is public comments. And so Bert, you signed up for water at town hall?
Yeah.
Okay, so come on up.
So, water town hall, so, the center buildings, the way I understand it, you're looking at, being compliant with, county regulations, with, municipal buildings. And so was in a lot of the last campaign issues of some of the candidates, what we're gonna do, with, either having some kind of a wastewater system or freshwater system to facilitate the town center. And so what I'm seeing is, I think we're at like one issue away from pitchforks coming up to the town hall and trying to figure out what we're gonna do with the island in the center here. Because now you have the library that moved into a trailer, which they might as well move back into the building. Because the way I understand it is they don't have permits from the health department to start figuring out if they're gonna be able to put in any kind of water or septic system. And you get, you running the town have put it on the agenda or made it clear that you don't want to see a townwide septic system for the center buildings, which would allow the library to get built on time and on schedule. And then you're also shutting down the idea of having fresh water come into these buildings over here. Or you're certainly not making it easy to get the results to make it possible. So now the library's got $9 million sitting available, and they're spending money monthly on a trailer. They don't have permits. The site plan, is going through, but if they don't have permits, they can't dig. And anything you want to do, you're talking about, Albert, your bedroom's taken over with all your paperwork. You can't add any more space to town hall, because if you do, you got to go back to the county and get a permit to do something. So where is who's going to lead the town for the next few years and put us in a direction that is going to solve the issue of how we're going to deal with the center? And if you're going to just put your heads in the sand and say, we're going to gate this community, we're going to keep everything the same, right? We're going to let it all, we're not going to build the ramps for the police department, we're not gonna change the water system over here. The library is gonna, maybe they can make a deal with the county, or maybe not, but it's gonna be not what they wanted, or not what we expected in a library. And that's what's gonna happen. You're not gonna see any progress. You're gonna have the same issues with the affordable housing. If those people think that they're gonna get something built by a town that doesn't even wanna put in clean water in the center for these municipal buildings, how are they gonna do that? How are they gonna accomplish anything in affordable housing? So, last night, the two liaisons to the Waterways Committee weren't here for the big hearing, and we're waiting for a response on that, you guys gotta talk and get something going,
Working on it. Got some work sessions scheduled in January to have the town engineer come in and give us options for fixes for how to deal with the county mandates that are coming before us and what our options are and how to proceed. Involved with that, we'll also be looking at a needs assessment for town buildings in the center of town. We have some money from the feds that we're looking at. It's earmarked for municipal wastewater. There is a possibility that it could also be switched over to drinking water. So we have a meeting coming up soon to talk to the feds about that, the EPA, just to see what our options are there so that we can proceed. So we are trying to step through. We're now back to a full complement on the board, so we can rejigger some of the workload, which is going to be very helpful, and keep moving forward. So stay tuned. And I have talked to the library that they're waiting for their health department permits. The town has issued the site plan review, so we're not holding them up. They're waiting for the health department, so they're optimistic that they're going to get them in January. And I have also mentioned to them that if we do something with wastewater or we do something with water, that I want them to come to the table and listen in, because if we can include them and they can pivot from what they have to do independently and be able to tie into something that we do for municipal buildings, that may also aid what they're trying to do as well as cost-wise. So there's a lot of moving parts, and we're going to try and keep moving forward on that. So keep paying attention. But thank you for bringing that up. Anyone else for public comments before we go on to agenda items? Zoom, anyone? Okay, good. All right. The next item on the agenda is the 2023 audit. And we have Jeff DeVoli from PKF O'Connor Davies, who's been waiting on Zoom to come in. We've also got John Walsh, who's the director. So you've got Joseph as well.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I would turn on my camera, but it says the host has blocked that.
Christina's working on that.
Okay.
Before you get started, I had worked on a draft. I'd gotten it late, sometime in September, like right in the heart of budget season. So I was working hard on the budget, so getting to review the financial statements got put on the back burner. And so I had started and made some comments, and then when I was out with COVID a couple of weeks ago and getting a little bored, I, with my background as a CPA and a past auditor, started to really go through these and made some changes to the management discussion and analysis, and just wanted to go through and make sure I revisited all of the pieces and how all of the different reports interplay with each other. And I thought for the board, so the team has been working on getting those comments incorporated. So we did get a draft last night. So does everyone have a copy? Did Judy give you yours out in the hall?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I was wondering why she didn't leave one for you. Okay, that makes sense. I just wanted to make sure everyone had one. So I know you haven't had a chance to go through and look at these, but I wanted Jeff to come in and give an overview of what we're looking at, give you a chance to at least hear what he has to say, maybe ask some questions, and then we can always revisit any questions that come up after today when you have a chance to go through all 81 pages of this one document, or 71 pages, so, but I'll turn it over to you, Jeff, because I know you've been
Yes.
working on the presentation.
Thank you, Supervisor. As the supervisor said, I'm Jeff DeVoli. I'm the lead partner for PKF O'Connor Davies, the auditor for the town, and I have with me here today John Walsh, who is a director and works on the audit engagement, and Joe Majiri, who's a supervisor, also works on the engagement. So Supervisor, I have this presentation. Am I able to share that?
Yes, Christine will be opening up the screen share. You're good to go.
Okay. All right. Okay, I just want to make sure I always get nervous at this point because I think I'm gonna pull up a picture of my wife in the bathtub with a glass of wine by mistake. So I'm very careful. All right, so this is a report. This is essentially a summary report. Can everybody see this?
No.
No, not yet.
You can't. Okay.
Starting up.
Okay.
Now
Is
we're
everybody-
good.
Okay, good. So this is a presentation. This is a report that's called Those Charged with Governance Report. Summarizes where we stand with the audit and some highlights of the audit results. Page 3 is just a quick agenda status of the audit, some financial statement highlights, some required communications and other matters, internal control over financial reporting. I'll turn it over to John for that. And then there's some stuff in there regarding some GASBs that are on the horizon. We have appendices in there. John's going to go over the internal control report, control deficiencies. We have included in our packet to you is the management representation letter that we will ask the those charged with governance to sign before we issue our report. Status of the audit. The audit work is complete. I received the first draft in coordination with Jen Ditter from Cullen and Danowski. They work very well with us. We work with them on various engagements, and we have a very good working relationship. They act as the preparers, some closing entries on the town's books, and preparing the financial statements. Financial statements have been drafted and, as the supervisor said, is in the process of being reviewed by management, and final approval will be needed before we issue our report. We anticipate that our opinion on the financial statements for the town for the year ended December 31st, 2023 will be an unmodified opinion, and I think it might bear fruit to discuss that quickly before we get into some of the other items, because I know some of the board members are new to this process. So I wanted to just slow down a bit and explain a couple things. An unmodified audit opinion means in nomenclature that is a clean opinion. A clean opinion. It is important to know that a clean opinion means that the financial statements are materially stated correctly in accordance with government GAAP for U.S. Governments. It does not mean that there is a sense of financial health and wellness of the town. I do have some non-audit related opinions about that I can talk to you kind of off the cuff about. But a lot of people misunderstand that an unmodified or a clean opinion means that the town is in perfect financial health. Some other things I wanted to just talk about, since this is some town board members' first time through this process, is that the financial statements include a couple different types of financial statements. Includes a government-wide financial statement. A government-wide financial statement is required by GASB 34, and it is a full accrual statement. A balance sheet is the statement of net position, and the statement of activities is the P&L for those in the commercial world. Full accrual, what that means is that includes all the assets and liabilities of the town, whether they be short-term or long-term assets or liabilities. Net position is the end result, the life to date of the government, and it stands at $28.6 million, which was an increase of $3 million. During the year, the town had governmental activities revenues of $18.3 million and expenses of $17 million. That is the result of the $1.3 million increase in net position for the year. The $18.3 million consisted of program revenues of $2.3 million and general revenues of $16 million. The preponderance of the general revenues represent real property taxes and money that the town took in on the CPF fund for the year. At December 31st, the town activities, assets, and deferred outflows of resources exceeded its liabilities and deferred inflows of resources by $28.6 million. That's the net position I referred to above. And that net position is broken into, in your case, 3 categories. One is the amount that the town has invested in its capital assets. That represents $43.1 million. Excuse me. 15.3 is restricted for various purposes, and there is a deficit of $29.8 million. So you take those 3 numbers and you get your net result of $28.6 million. We talked there that the deficit of $29.8 million is not something that you necessarily should be concerned about. I mean, deficits generally, we talk about deficits in a negative kind of way. This deficit is a result of the way the government is run. Every single government has a deficit of in its unrestricted net position. And it is a result of, as I mentioned earlier, it is a result of having your assets and liabilities on this full accrual statement, because you don't run your government on the full accrual basis. You run it on a modified accrual basis. So you raise revenue to pay the expenses for that year. You don't raise revenues to pay expenses that are due down the road. So you had $43.4 million in net capital assets. That is the result of adding all the capital assets and putting them on the balance sheet and depreciating them. And then there's a liability of $33.1 million, and that's the OPEB liability. The OPEB liability is the social promises that were made in contracts, all present valued and analyzed by an independent actuary. So that result is, because the capital assets are segregated in statement of net position, that results in this negative $29.8 million deficit. Anybody can stop me along the way if there's any questions. If not, I will continue.
Yeah, I was just going to say, maybe if everyone wants to turn to, in the regular financial statements, the fattest packet, page 20. Because for me, sometimes like reading something, like looking at the numbers on the page, kind of, like that's where Jeff is getting those numbers from.
Yeah. Yes.
Page-
And as I said, the biggest draw on the negative unrestricted net position is the fact that you have an OPEB liability of $33.1 million as a result of adopting GASB 75. So we see swings every year, and I know the supervisor has looked at this carefully, and the swings that we've seen in governments in the OPEB liability has been pretty dramatic in the past couple of years as a result of big swings in the discount rate. Right, discount is the risk-free rate that is used to calculate a present value of a future number. In 22, the discount rate went from 2.06 at the beginning of 22 to 3.72, a gigantic increase. And what that's going to do is that's going to drive down your liability, because everybody knows in order to get $1 in the future at 0 interest rate, you need to put $1 away today. But to put in $1 away today in the future at a 4 or 5% interest rate, we will yield a bigger number in the future, and therefore a smaller number today. In 23, the discount rate went from that 3.72 that I just referred to the end of 2023 of 3.26. That was about a 0.5 point decrease in the discount rate. And the result of that is, as I said, when you lower the discount rate, your liability goes up because you essentially have to put away more money today to get the same money in the future. By comparison, on the next page here, this is the governmental funds. The general fund is the main operating fund of the town. It is, again, on a modified accrual basis, which means that that it is on a current financial resource method as opposed to a total resource method that is used to generate the government-wide financial statements. General fund had a fund balance of $5.1 million. 183,000 that was in the non-spendable category. 1.5 was restricted for such things as GML reserves, capital, and the LoCEP plan. 822,000 is in the assigned for either the ensuing year budget, open purchase orders carried over from 23 to 24, and then there was some waterways money that was set aside. Fund balance for the year ended 2023 increased by $460,000. And here's where I go off the cuff a little bit with this third bullet here on explaining what levels of fund balance a bonding community or a state controller may look at as being a safe level of fund balance. So what we do is we calculate the unassigned fund balance, also known as free fund balance or fund balance available to be spent, and we divide it by the ensuing year's budget appropriations or expenditures. So that number comes to 23%. So I always tell my clients anywhere from 10 to 20%, you're really in a really safe zone from being criticized by the state controller for raising too much money in taxes and hoarding that money. And below 10% gives you a little, just as not much of a buffer for surprises. Revenues of $11.8 million were $755,000 higher than budget. Non-property tax items resulted in $58,000 in more than the original budgeted. That was the John, what's in that category again?
That's the pilots.
The pilot plan, that's right.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that we're seeing on all our governments is finally, as cash has historically for the past, as far back as the memory recalls, cash has yielded a zero return. And now we're seeing the benefits of higher interest rates. And in this case, the general fund had $261,000 more in interest income than budgeted, and state aid increased by $286,000. Expenditures were $11.1 million, pretty much right in alignment with the original budget. I'd say that's pretty close budgeting. There was some transfers. They're classified in the other financing and sources uses category, and they was $255,000 transferred from the general fund to the capital projects fund in the highway. CPF fund, this is, everybody knows this. I heard some discussion about it before. It's the 2% fund, and the fund balance in that CPF fund was $13.3 million. Because of the nature of the type of money it is all in the restricted category. Revenues consisted of approximately $2.5 million in non-property tax. That is the money that it comes in through the 2% program. Approximately $540,000 in interest income earned on the cash sitting in the CPF fund. And there was $809,000 in expenditures. Excuse me. $809,000 in expenditures in the CPF fund. The result of that revenue minus the expenditures was an increase of $2.1 million. Moving on to the highway fund, consolidated highway fund. Unbalanced totaled $1.1 million. $32,000 is in the non-spendable category. $248,000 is restricted, and $785 is restricted for highway use. assigned for highway use. Fund balance decreased by $88,000 in the prior year, and the assigned fund balance, as I described with the general fund, as a percentage of the ensuing year's budgeted appropriations is 32%. Again, a safe level of fund balance if I'm going off the cuff here. Revenues of $2.3 million was $163,000 more than originally budgeted, and much and of course every fund was the beneficiary of higher interest rates. In the consolidated highway funds, $142,000 was a result of that investments in higher interest rates. Expenditures and other financing sources, approximately $2.4 million, and that's consistent with the budget as well. Capital projects, which we all know is a multi-year fund. It is where major projects for the town are accounted for. Fund balance total $220,000, and the entire amount is assigned, and fund balance increased by $97,000. Expenditures of $419,000, and it was $521,000 in transfers from the aforementioned from the general fund and lease additions, which are also considered other financing sources. Non-major funds consist of the B fund or the Part-Town Fund, West Neck Water, the Debt Service Fund, and the brand new in 22 Community Housing Fund. That is the 0.5% tax similar to the CPF fund. We kind of talked about this. The supervisor pointed out the page that this is on, but I think this was important to at least point out in this presentation. It is the net position on the government wide and the fund balance on the governmental fund basis. There's the $28.6 million that we talked about earlier, and the $5.4 million in the total fund balance, 2.9 in the unassigned category from the general fund. This is the change in those same funds, government-wide and governmental. Net fund balance increased on the government-wide. The net position increased by $1.4 million, let's call it. And all other funds on the fund basis, fund balance increased by almost $3 million. The only fund that reduced its fund balance during 2023 was a consolidated highway fund. I'll go through these fairly quickly. These are just required communications that I am required as your auditor to communicate with you on. Our responsibilities under the professional standards. Our opinion, our responsibilities include forming an opinion and expressing an opinion on the financial statements, obtaining reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatements caused by either error or fraud, accumulating and communicating uncorrected misstatements to those charged with governance. We always maintain a level of professional skepticism and communicating audit-related matters that are, in our professional judgment, significant to you, those charged with governance. Supplemental information. This is included in the financial statements. I won't go through that unless somebody wants me to. Another category is RSI, and this is also required to be in the financial statements. And as we say here, we do not express an opinion or provide any assurance on the information because of the limited procedures do not provide us with sufficient evidence to express an opinion or provide any insurance on that RSI. RSI is generally the budget comparisons. Other information included in the financial statements. There's some information in here that I need to disclose to you, that nothing came to our attention that caused us to believe that any such material inconsistencies exist or that the information contains a material misstatement of fact. Yellow Book or GAS, we are required to give you an opinion on provide you a report rather with the test that we performed on certain provisions of laws, contracts, regulations, and grants. And again, however, our test was not to provide an opinion on compliance with such provisions. Now, your responsibilities as those charged with governance include fair presentation of the financial statements. You are lucky to have Cullen and Danowski and Jen Ditter to help you prepare those financial statements. Establishing and maintaining effective internal controls, compliance with laws, regulations, contracts, and grants, and providing us as your auditors all the records we need to do our audit properly, and provide us with a representation letter at the end. Evaluate any conditions exist, considering the aggregate that raise substantial doubt about the town's ability to continue as a going concern. We always are impressed with the town and its proper tone at the top, and designing and implementing policies and controls to prevent and detect fraud. Qualitative aspects are broken into various components. Accounting policies is one of them. What's important here is that we noted no transactions entered into the town during the year for which there is a lack of authoritative guidance or consensus. Significant unusual transactions. I'm happy to report no matters have come to our attention that require us to inform you about the methods used to account for significant unusual transactions. Qualitative aspects further broken down into accounting estimates and management's judgments. There are big numbers in here. The biggest one is the OPEB, and that is, as I explained earlier, determined by an actuary based on actuarial assumptions. There are other items in here which include estimates and management's judgments, the least of which is not the asset lies for the depreciable assets. Financial statement disclosures. We have looked at these financial statement disclosures, and we have concluded that the financial statement disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear as required by the standards. I'm getting there. Going concern, as we talked about, that part of an audit is to determine if the town will continue as a going concern. Management has completed their assessment of going concern and has concluded that no going concern uncertainty exists, and we agree. There's significant risks in every audit. We are required as your auditors to identify certain significant risks. Like audits of similar to yours, these are what we consider the significant risks: management overrides of internal controls, financial statement presentation and disclosures, federal awards because of their sensitivity and compliance nature. And the audit procedures applied as a result of the aforementioned significant risks were designed to and have reduced the risk of material misstatement to low. We're happy to report that we did not encounter any significant difficulties in dealing with management in completing our audit. And there's a disclosure here on the corrected and uncorrected misstatements. None of the misstatements detected as a result of audit procedures and corrected by management were material, either individually or in the aggregate, to each of the opinion units' financial statements taken as a whole. We're happy also to report that there were no disagreements with management. As I said, we will get a management representation letter as required by the standards that is included in this packet under Appendix 3. We're required to report to you that we, as your auditors, are independent as it relates to the town. This next item talks about, essentially refers to opinion shopping. We were not aware of the town opinion shopping on any material items. And as I said, we are planning on issuing our unmodified opinion on the financial statements as soon as we get the approval to do so. Internal controls, Appendix 1, we talk about some internal controls. Internal controls are broken into 3 different categories: control deficiencies, significant deficiencies, and material weaknesses. And I'll turn it over to John to discuss that when we get there. This is on the horizon. There are some, as usual, major GASB pronouncements coming out. The first one is one that will apply to the town for 2024 for compensated absences and the accounting for compensated absences. And we, along with Jen Ditter, will be reviewing these with you as you adopt those for 2024. GASB 102, I don't believe is really going to apply to you. GASB 103 is essentially a brush up on the financial reporting module and making improvements to mostly the MD&A. So at this time, I will turn it over to John to talk about the internal controls.
Okay. I'm going to talk about the internal controls, but before I go over the internal controls, Jeff, can you just go up to the letter at it's 2 pages prior to this? I just want to explain that this letter here that we're issuing is we often call it a yellow book report. And as Jeff mentioned, this is our report on compliance and other matters based on the audit of the financial statements performed in accordance with government auditing standards. If you scroll down a little bit, this is not, it says in the first paragraph, up a little, accordingly, we do not express an opinion on the effectiveness of the town's internal control. So in this report, we're not reporting on your internal controls. We're simply just commenting on things that we've identified that we consider to be material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, and or other deficiencies. This does not mean that we did identify all of them by any means. So now if we scroll through, I'm going to go through some of these comments briefly. If anyone has any questions and they want to stop me, feel free to stop me at any time. One thing we noticed was that when we were reviewing the capital assets, the town does not have a capital asset policy, and there hasn't been a physical inventory of assets done in several years. Keep in mind, everyone, too, one thing that's important to emphasize is this was as of December 31st, 2023. I know the town has discussed some efforts going forward to make some changes. Another effort that we found was in cash management in the landfill department. We noticed that the deposits are not being done daily or timely. Daily to the town clerk, there's a lack of segregation of duties, which is similar on many entities of similar size. If we go down to the third comment, which kind of ties in here, it deals with the landfill. We had met with the supervisor earlier in the year. The supervisor had asked us to take a look at specifically some items in the landfill department. Upon our review of the landfill department, we noticed that there was some old accounts receivable, and some of it was outstanding, over 90 days old. This was something that we think the town should look into, and we believe as of now, this is being handled differently than it was throughout January 1st to December 31st, 2023, but we just thought it was important to mention that. This next comment is similar to the same comment that was in the landfill department. It's just about the cash collections timely. It's important to have a system in place, and it mitigates or eliminates the risks of theft the more timely that cash is deposited. And it's going to be the same comment you see on the Justice Court regarding segregation of duties. This is a smaller government, especially specifically for a town. So we'll always comment on how there should be some additional levels of segregation of duties to mitigate and, if not eliminate, the risks of fraud and misappropriation of assets. The same thing was true.
Yeah, you'll see, John, if I just jump in, you'll see on some of these are repeat comments, and some of them go back, quite a bit, a number of years. And as John said, specifically as it relates to segregation of duties, I think we have a couple of comments on segregation of duties. We are required to report them to you, but we do understand that a government of a limited size, that the benefit of the segregation of duties, which means that different people handle different aspects of a particular transaction to be a check and a balance to the others, that in order to do that would require the hiring of additional personnel. So I always advise my clients that, yes, we have to report that there's a segregation of duties issue in certain departments, but that the cost of implementing a segregation of duty system would not outweigh the benefits. Go ahead, John.
Okay. Yeah, so this is again, you're gonna see it's the same thing with the town clerk, and this comment's again repeated in the journal entries. A good system of internal controls. There should be some documentary review of the journal entries. And again, that's just the segregation of duties. In addition to that, we identified some comments that we consider to be control deficiencies. And I'm just going to go over these quickly. In the check signing procedure, we feel that 2 signatures per check over a specific dollar amount would benefit the town and it would increase the internal controls. Currently, they require a signed purchase order for purchase over $5,000, but there's no there's no 2 signatures on every check. If we scroll down a little bit on
Yep, just on this one, you could see that we do ask the town to respond to some of these, and the town has implemented a new policy that does require a second signature for amounts over certain dollar amounts. So we applaud the town for that. Go ahead, John.
Okay, compensated absences. We're just talking here about there should be a centralized process to ensure accuracy that is reconciled and compared to the department heads. We noticed when we were going through these that there's all the compensated absences are tracked independently by departments. And while that is certainly like sufficient, there should be somebody in the controller's office or the finance department that's also reconciling those amounts. Inventory. We noted, and this I believe has been reported for a while, since 2006. There is no inventory on the books. I know that the town had mentioned that they were going to work with the superintendent of highways and try to come up with a way of evaluating future inventory. The grant policy, this really has to do with the account codes. General municipal law and the New York State Comptroller's Office issues out specific codes 3000 and 4000 for state aid and federal aid respectively. We noticed when we're going through sometimes we're not seeing that those codes are being utilized. It's just a recommendation that it's just a recommendation that the specific codes should be utilized. We spoke with Cullen and Danowski and they agreed, and they said that they were going to try to implement that specifically relating to some of the new grants. This last comment here on information technology environment, this is something that I think every single board should be discussing. We always put this comment in. It relates to strengthening IT controls. I'm sure many of you are aware how there was a cybersecurity hack at Suffolk County, and basically any single seminar that Jeff or I go to, it's always like the hot topic of discussion. I think it's just something that the town should be aware of.
Yeah, and just so you know, there are PKF does this. I mean, we have a very, very professional IT and cybersecurity department within PKFOD. One of the things that they do is, what I'm sure you've heard the term penetration testing on the ability to penetrate your system from the outside. And any government, regardless of the size, who thinks they're exempt, from this type of attack, they need to follow things a little closer, because these school districts and these small governments in the middle of the country are getting hacked, and they generally get hacked because they don't have those processes in place that some of the bigger governments do have. So, why people rob the bank is because that's where the money is. So they attack these smaller sized governments because they know that you got tight budgets, and your ability to spend money is sometimes limited, but sometimes spending money is an investment and not a cost. Okay, thank you, John. This we put in here for you in the packet. This is the representation letter that we'll be asking the supervisor to sign prior to us issuing the financial statements. It includes all the required by the standards disclosures. It talks much about the things that I spoke about earlier on your responsibilities and our responsibilities in an audit. So it's a document that just seems to get longer and longer as time goes on. But that's just the way the world is working right now. And then so that's it as far as our presentation. So I'll open the floor if the supervisor likes to any questions that anybody has.
I don't know if any of you, I had a couple of questions. Timing, just if you could update the board a little bit on timing. And as I, started off, I had gotten this first draft back in September, so the last 2 months of getting this finalized is on me, but just the interplay between our staff, I'm Colin and Danowski, and you, how that all works.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. My staff knows that I am a big proponent of getting this financial statement out. I don't see that there's a reason why this financial statement can't be issued prior to June 30th. It is of the size of government and the complexity of government that I issue financial statements for some of my towns that are 10 times the size of this with 10 times the complexity, and I am a big proponent to having this discussion sometime in June or July rather than December. I received the first draft of the financial statements on, I believe it was, John, correct me, August 21st.
Yes.
So it's going to take me a little bit of time to get through it and review files and make sure that I'm comfortable before we issue a draft. But I think the folks over at Cullen know where I stand on this as well. That we have made great efforts to work cohesively together as a team, and that is the supervisor and Shelby and your contract accountants, Cullen, and us. So we are the last in the line of the information. So the books need to be closed. Then the financial statements need to be prepared, and then we can do the audit. So I will continue to push very hard on that to possibly have a draft of the financial statements. For the life of me, I can't understand why we can't have a draft of the financial statements in May. So if all schedules align properly, my staff is ready to go as soon as those financial statements are prepared and the audit is ready to proceed. We work on a 6-month rolling basis on the schedule, and we always have this time set aside in the spring rather than the summer and the fall. So if we can all see to it that this audit gets started earlier, I don't see a reason why we can't have this conversation before the weather gets hot.
And you did have things a couple months, you were 2 months earlier than the prior year. So there were improvements made. But for me to get this to review before budget season kicks in.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. Yeah.
Yeah. It's impossible. I don't even pretend to know what you guys go through with the budget. I mean, I see all my clients going through the same thing, and they're all, they all have liquid in their stomach and blood in their eyes from, the budget process. So I am all for getting this issued before that.
Yeah. And Jen, I've been going back and forth with her in a conversation too. So she knows the goal is June 30th as well. So
yes. Yeah.
That you all did make some improvements with year-end closing and coordination this year.
Who's Jen?
Yeah.
Jen Ditta is from Cullen and Danowski. Mhm. Yeah. Jump in with other questions. I have a couple.
Well, that was kind of my question. I mean, thank you for this package. It seems complete, professional. Haven't gone through it, obviously. It was just handed to me. But it looks as good as any other one I've seen in my life, and I've seen a lot.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
My question is, well, where's the broken gear? Because we certainly can't be sitting here in December of 2025 doing the same thing. So maybe that's a question for us internally, but yeah, this can't happen again.
Agreed.
Not really a question.
It's a mandate. Yeah. One of the things that jumped out at me in one of the notes, it was on page 36, LoSAP doesn't meet GASB 73 protection from creditors. Is that a comment that most municipalities are getting? And also the reporting is 1 year behind, if you look at page 51. So I was just curious if that's like the norm, or do we need to look at maybe doing something different with the trust that's managing our LoSAP?
Yeah, that's more of a legal question on the trust that's handling that. But this disclosure is not uncommon. They all read that way. And generally there is a year lag on that information.
I also thought, especially in light of when we're actually issuing these, it's that much bigger of a lag. You spoke to whether or not we'll see some change to the presentation with the new GASBs coming on, but.
Yeah,
Well,
the major one is 103, and that is a 2026 GASB. The compensated absence GASB 101 will be for your 2024 year. And we'll work with Shelby and Jen to make sure we're all in we do, as you might imagine, we do some presentations for New York State GFOA on some of these topics.
Think that will slow us down next year?
No,
No.
not at all. None of these GASBs just don't pop up and say, they're effective right now. There's always a lead time. So we are prepared to audit them, as soon as they come out.
You have to read through the whole thing. I might have questions after I do that,
Yes.
but at the moment I don't.
Yes. Yeah, I was gonna say.
I mean, the recommendations are what I kind of anticipated from last year's, so I don't see anything new or glaring that I wasn't anticipating.
I figure over the holidays, you all can take a look at them, and then if you have questions, you can float them to me first, since I've torn these apart, and if we get to things that I can't easily answer, then we can bring Jeff back in.
Okay.
Question. I don't know, I think that we saw it here, but I can't see it, okay? The unfunded liabilities, what page is that on?
There's a couple disclosures. It's on the face of the financial statements, which is page 20.
What is it that you were talking about, unfunded
I think it's
liability?
actually page 20.
20 at page
Yes.
20. Yeah, so this is the financial statement. This is that full accrual financial statement, and you could see on page 20 of the financial statements, there's an item at the bottom called total other post-employment benefit liability. It's $29.6 million is the long-term portion, and there's a short-term portion as well. So that's that is the liability. There is also a footnote
What's the
disclosure.
page again? I'm sorry, what was the page?
Page 20, printed page 20. And then there's a footnote disclosure if you'd like to take a note on to review later on, and I will get to that in 1 second.
44
Okay.
is the
Yep.
long-term debt.
Yeah.
And then as you come down from page 44, the liability specifically related to the pension, I believe, starts on page 46.
Yeah, and then the OPEB liability it's got as a number that is one of the biggest numbers on the financial statements, deserves its own footnote as well, and that is footnote number 13, I believe, which is I'm sorry, 14, which begins on page 54.
Okay.
So everybody's got my contact information. It's included in the packet there, or you can get it through the supervisor. If anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me if something pops up outside of, after this meeting.
Yeah, I had last night when I got these forwarded them to you, so you do have Jeff's information.
Okay. I mean, given the fact that this is getting to us now, I don't know, it just seems like we may need to give the public an explanation once this is finished about the deficiencies and the corrective actions, because now that this is here, it's December, there's no time to make corrective actions for 2025. But I'm sure some are happening. I mean, we could have an inventory problem.
And some things were already started on in 2024.
Right.
Yes,
And
and
then,
we should
but
report on that.
2025, yeah, in 2025, I'd like to start going, like, we've got 7 in one section and another 5 in the other section, like
Yeah.
1 a month. Like, put 1 a month on for how do we fix it? And I've already started to talk to Ken about inventory. Shelby's going to get things set up. Jeff, we're gonna take the dual check signing one step further, because it's hard for the banks to monitor, oh, this check's greater than 10,000, 2 checks are signed. The banks
Right.
just aren't set up for that.
Do it
So
from zero.
we're just, every single check is gonna have 2 signatures.
Yeah,
So
okay, yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanna continue to sign every single check, because I'm watching numbers and checking where things are coded and making sure they're going to the right budget lines. But then the 4 of you will now have an additional responsibility
Fine with me.
every 3 weeks to sign
Well,
checks.
thank you for taking up my recommendation.
No, we already were
Yeah.
working, it's already on that with Shelby this past week.
Check fraud is a tremendously big problem in America today. And you can talk to any bank president and they will tell you the same thing. Some banks don't issue bank checks anymore because of the amount of check fraud that's going on out there. So as your auditors, we're always hypersensitive to things that could affect the town in a negative type of way. And checks and access to bank accounts and all those types of things are things that you really should keep a close eye on, because it is runaway and it's not getting any better. And with AI and all the things that come with it, there's a lot of attacks happening on municipalities specifically regarding these types of frauds.
Yeah, I'd even go as far as to say that you shouldn't sign any checks. You should approve them for signature, and then the 4 of us should come, or 2 of the 4 of us should come and sign them.
With some of the smaller purchases, the department heads sign off on the purchase orders.
Mhm.
So I don't see them until it comes to the check. So that's why, because that's like this last stop, and that's why it needs to. But there's a department head signing off. You've got Rob looking at from the abstract point of view, putting things in. You've got Shelby putting it into the accounting system. So by the time it gets to me, 3 other people have already looked at it. So in order for there to be fraud, you'd have to have collusion amongst 3 people before it gets to me. So, but we're gonna add an extra layer of control, but.
Yeah, and nonetheless, in the liability. And yeah, check fraud, and there hasn't been an organization I've been involved in that hasn't experienced check fraud.
Mhm.
And some of it is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've been
Absolutely.
lucky so far, and we actually, at one point, there was we couldn't I had to go over to the bank and sign something because they wouldn't unrelease the account because it had been the check fraud precautions the bank had put on. I think it might have been for a CPF transaction because they're so, big numbered ones are so infrequent that it's like, oh, no, this, we're not letting this go through. No, you please, we're trying to close.
Amber, the CPF, we combine WQIP and CPF as it is in this report as one
Yes.
entity? Is that what
Yes.
it is?
The community has.
So the individual audit is different than this?
Yes,
Okay.
but the individual
Yeah,
audit
the
gets done.
CPF, there is a separate disclosure in there. And then the new community housing program is a separate fund in the back. You'll see in the combining report of the non-major funds, it is its own fund separately from the CPF fund. So if you flip, Mr. Councilman, if you slip all the way back to the back of the report, there's a combining statement, and you'll see that the West Neck Water and the B Fund, and the Debt Service Fund and the new housing fund is all in the back there.
Page 69 of the
Yeah,
thing,
of the financial statements themselves.
or just
Okay.
page 69.
Excellent.
68 and 69.
So Jeffrey, just one last thing, just to leave off, okay? What you're saying is that as the auditor, you received it in August, and there's no reason why you shouldn't get it, and we should not be able to receive the information earlier to you.
Correct.
Okay. And what's a reasonable time? I mean, I guess should you have them, in other words, when you're saying, you this year you received it, so it's offset. So what would you anticipate receiving it next year? In April or May or?
Yeah, I would love to get it in April or May. And if that's the case, if we get it in April or May, we will issue the financial statement by June 30th.
And that shouldn't be a overburden to get that in place.
I don't want to speak for the resources of the town,
Okay.
but I would think not.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We got some reading.
Mhm. Anything else?
It's good for you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank the supervisor and the town board and Shelby in her cooperation, and of course Jen and Colin's cooperation during the audit. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye
Thank
now.
you.
And this is a draft right now, so the final will be.
I want to just go through because I gave them numerous comments, so I just want to make sure that they all flowed through. So I didn't get a chance because we were in a meeting last night. And I had given substantive comments, probably more than they're used to getting from the supervisor. So they had to go back and just double check. So,
If we have some comments, just give them to you.
yes. But yeah, I plan to, over the weekend, probably go through and just cross-reference what, and then I can sign off on the management agreement, and then these can be issued final.
Okay.
Next item agenda is the town board calendar. And we've been sitting on this because Gordon, you had some suggestions that you want to share with us?
Yep. I'd like to see if we can at least get one work session a month in the evening. Okay, just to see how it goes. And I neglected to know, the Fridays seem to be a good day. The last the Thursday, the last Thursday of the month seems to be okay. The first Wednesday seemed to be okay. What's the feeling?
Thursday, don't we have CHP?
Yeah.
But not every
Well,
Thursday.
no, we
every
have
Thursday.
WQI the first Thursday of the month, we have Community Housing Board the second Thursday of the
okay.
month, so it has to be later.
So you said the last Thursday?
The last Thursday or the first Wednesday, or, Fridays are open.
Are any Mondays open?
No. Mondays are pretty booked. And then that's typically where the holidays land on Mondays, and it screws up the whole schedule. Sometimes the last Monday, no, not even. It's hit or miss.
Yeah, in January, none of the Mondays are available. May, none of, February has one. No, one. Let's see, March. Could be two, no, three.
When are you considering to hold these meetings? What time?
Yeah.
6, I would assume.
That's what I think.
To get used to last night.
No problem, I wasn't here.
Fridays don't seem reasonable only because everyone's gonna travel on the weekends. No one's gonna come to town board work session on a Friday.
I'm just concerned that if we just have a
can't speak it.
schedule jumping around, and it's typically Tuesdays at 1, but then it's randomly a Thursday night or a Friday night, that people are gonna get confused. Like, consistency in schedule, I think, makes it easier for people to plan. So I think if we have random one-off meetings on an odd day of the week at night, it's just gonna get confusing for the public.
I would think that we could start it. We could do it for 3 months and see the response, or a segment of time and see the response.
The proper segment of time is the year, just because we quickly roll with public hearings and setting public hearing, like, we need to know the schedule for the whole year.
Right.
Because we do have to be able to, like, okay, you're covered here. So even the work sessions, then we have to factor those in as to when we discuss the public hearings that we've had to make sure that we get them on the calendar. So we just have to be cognizant of having a set schedule that we follow and that people can look to.
I wouldn't mind trying it. I kind of also agree with Magda. You want some consistency, but maybe as a trial thing, we can't really get much consistency.
Well, the only consistency is that it's the same Friday, or it's the same Thursday, or it's the same from month to month, okay? And it's just an attempt to,
So we have on Mondays, we have February and March.
I did sort of, if night, trying to move work sessions. And so let me just see if we can consistently do a Tuesday night. Oh wait, do you have a conflict?
Yeah, I'm not here on
yeah,
Tuesday.
that's why I didn't pick on that Tuesday.
Okay. Because that was,
It's once a month. It's once a month we're talking about.
I'm struggling to see the benefit of having a random one-off once a month work session. It's gonna be hard to get people like, our auditors to come to a 6 PM work session. I think it's one thing if you have a member of the board who works full-time who needs to have night meetings, then it's up to that board to make that decision, but I mean, I don't know that it's necessary.
You have public outcry for it?
That I haven't heard one, but I don't.
we almost do the second Wednesday of every month, except for May.
I like the Monday idea. That helps.
Mondays doesn't really
Too scattered.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, but even that second Wednesday, because of holidays, May and
It
December,
looks like the Wednesdays would work, okay?
except for May and December. It wouldn't be the second Wednesday, we'd have to pick. Well, actually, in December, there's no Wednesday, because we've got ZBA on the first, ZBA on the second Wednesday, EMS, although EMS can be done by, yeah, there's a day there, the 17th next year,
What's Thursday, what?
worse, I think.
What's the Monday or what's the Wednesday?
I have to do the last Thursday of the month, I think.
That's last Thursday, right.
Yeah, that might work.
That's okay. It's better for me. Not to make this all about me.
Well, if you can't be there, it's kind of a silly thing.
Except for the Thanksgiving. so
Yeah,
we'd have to bump
Thanksgiving
that.
and then the Christmas, New Year's.
And Christmas, yeah.
Nah, should be here, Christmas anyway.
Well, no, if we're just moving work sessions. But actually, we didn't have one scheduled that week anyway, so that's okay.
Well, on
We
the
didn't have one
Thanksgiving one, we just have the work session on the Tuesday where it's already scheduled.
Actually, I don't even think I scheduled.
Let's see, you put work session.
Oh, I did have one, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And then
November.
for December,
Then we have a meeting on the 22nd, so that's the one,
maybe no me,
December 22nd, yeah.
yes.
So that's.
Yeah, you have November 25th in here.
Yeah, that's a meeting, not a work
Yes, okay.
session.
Yes. All right, so we could do I think we just said,
The last,
the last
Last Thursday.
the last Thursday of every month,
Right.
January through October. And when we go back into the meeting calendar, maybe what we can do, Amber, is in between the work session and restarting, like reconvening a special meeting, you and I can just double check.
Well, is that what you want to do, is the last Thursday? So I'll just,
Yeah, if you could just go through it, but then also just like one or two of us just double check.
and does everybody want to do this? The last Thursday, I,
I'll see the benefit.
I'm teetering on the brink.
I understand.
Do you see the benefit?
I don't see
Yeah.
it, but I understand. where it's coming from.
I mean, no one's brought up to me and,
Yeah, no one's brought it to me.
but I'm open to try it.
so,
I'm
I mean,
open to
so
try it.
if we,
I just, yeah, my concern is the staff and also just effectiveness.
I'm open to try it.
if we do this, you'll have a work session Thursday followed by a work session Tuesday. So there'll be, it's a work session,
Mhm.
unless we go and rearrange the whole calendar, because, like, so for example, something like, if you look at January, so we have a work session on the 14th, right? And then we have nothing the following week because it's Martin Luther King Day on the 20th, so we have that whole week off. And then you'd take that work session that was supposed to be on the 28th and move it to the 30th. And then the next week, you'd have another work session on the 4th. But the only thing that's happened between the 30th and the 4th is a WMAC meeting. So unless you go in, but that's okay, because I mean, there's always lots to do. Yeah, it just doesn't. Like today's schedule could have been fuller, but I knew that our chat with the auditors was going to. Yeah.
If it's once a month, does it help at all to do it once a month on a Tuesday?
I think the problem there was just finding consistency.
Yeah, because there's a lot of night meetings and then holidays on the Monday that bumps those to the
You got the
Tuesdays,
CAC.
and planning board.
And you're available Tuesday evenings?
No, But
That's why I was like, wait, why did we cross Tuesday off?
Yeah.
Yeah, that worked.
I mean, for once a month, I can try to figure something out. I mean, I want to try this and I want to help.
I think it's worth really trying to force it, try to do it. I think it's important. We've been asked to do it. It's been talked about.
Who's been asking?
Yeah,
I have not gotten.
No one has called the town clerk's office.
That's what I'm just curious about, like, are we going to get greater
We had
participation?
two people come in and asked us, one a Republican and then one the Democratic chairman of the parties and requested.
It did,
You know.
that did happen, yes.
But that's to get candidates, and I think if we elect somebody who is working and needs that, then we can then implement it.
Also,
That's
seems weird. I mean, one meeting is not gonna change, it's not gonna help find candidates.
I just want to throw it out there, it's been months.
The month meeting may not do that, but to get more participation, it might help. We don't know the
Okay, that's
answer
true.
to it,
That's
okay? And there have been many people who have jobs, who work, and that might participate later on, but at least it's showing that there's an openness to consider the evenings, okay? I mean,
Yeah.
what the problem we have is what? More people participating, right?
I want to help and try and figure this out. We can, one Tuesday a month that I can figure out. This last Thursday of the month I can do. And if it, maybe in 6 months from now, halfway down the line for next year, if on these nights if we're sitting in an empty room, can we revert it back?
Yeah, we'd have to do an amendment to whatever we adopt today.
Well, I mean, so it
Just thinking
the
staff.
rules of the work session still apply, whether it's at night or during the day. So there's not typically a ton of participation topics at the work session. It's either discussing closed hearings or, it's things of that nature. So I mean, if everyone wants to do it, fine. I just don't know about how that, what the significant benefit is to a random one-off.
I don't think it's going to accomplish what we think it's going to accomplish. And we're also going to then have to work with staff to,
Well, what about Tuesdays? You're available on Tuesdays?
Well, once a month I can try to figure something out.
Is that a fixed Tuesday, Ben? Or would it be, you'd have to move it around?
Oh, no, we can fix it and I'll work around. It's easier for me to work around a fixed object.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. So that's possible.
I mean, the work sessions on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock, how many people do you expect?
Depends on what's on the agenda.
We have 14, well, there are 14 people on Zoom, but a lot of that's us.
it's not like people don't have opportunities to observe what's going on. Like, they can zoom in, this is happening now. They can watch it on YouTube live as it's happening now. They can go to the YouTube channel and look at the meeting after the fact at their leisure. They can go to channel 22 and watch it at the whatever program times.
They can email us, they can call us, they can set up meetings with us if they have a topic that they want to talk about.
I think that would be just nice to do something a little bit different to accommodate, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, okay, but I think you might be surprised. Okay, I think what I'm more concerned about is getting candidates to run for office where they may have jobs. I mean, what we're trying, both parties have the same problem, getting people to attend. And people have, I've seen so much conversation over this evening meetings. If they were evening meetings, we would participate. We would put our hat in the fire and try to attend and be more involved, okay? I think they're 1 o'clocks, people who are teachers, they can't participate and be on a board. So I mean, I'm just saying, I think it would be if it's not right, it doesn't work, and we think it's not the right, I think we should at least give it an attempt. That's what I'm trying to say.
Also, I'm not trying to be difficult. Those are two different issues. I mean, if you're trying to recruit people to participate in government,
Right.
one Tuesday a month's not gonna change that.
No, it's not.
But if you're trying to get the residents to show up and
Right.
voice their opinions, yeah, that can help. So I'm happy to try it. And I think in 6 months we should look, and if, like I said, if we're sitting in an empty room, which we do from time to time, we can always revert back. But it's gonna be, it's less convenient for the people sitting up here, but it's not about our convenience, is it?
Yeah, I'm more concerned about the staff,
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
the staff that we need to bring in. But then I'll just have to, carefully schedule things so that when we need Joe to present on something, that we do it on a day that's a 1 PM instead of a 6 PM.
yeah.
Unfortunately, we've got some staff that don't have a choice, so we'll have to just flex hours on those days that week.
I'm happy to try it. But I really do think in 6 months, we should look back and
Revisit.
see what happened.
So there's 3 of you who want to do this.
Yeah, I'd like to do it. I mean, I think we should.
And we're talking.
An attempt.
What's that? Tuesday.
See the response.
If Tuesdays is more consistent,
Yeah, I mean, if Tuesday's more consistent, I would say do it the last Tuesday of every month, because then there's no conflict with planning board or CAC.
correct.
Other than the holiday factor, what's wrong with Monday? The last Monday of every month, or?
Because there's something every night of the month, Monday.
Oh, there's a.
There's,
Yeah, we have
yeah,
1 or 2
town
town board
boards,
meetings.
like WMAC, WAC usually runs late. And we have town
Okay.
board meetings, so it's really, all the Mondays are kind of booked.
You guys pick the day. Tuesday.
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 Okay.
What time?
6 PM.
6 PM, last Tuesday of every month.
So that'll be January 28th, February 25th,
Already won't be here.
March 25th. Just making, there. April 29th.
Skip May.
Yeah, I was gonna say May, there'd be nothing because we weren't going to have, like, the day after Memorial Day, we weren't gonna do a work session. So do we want to move the 20th? But that's not the last Tuesday, so we're gonna,
Let's just skip it.
yeah. Bouncing.
Yeah.
June
We'll have to make preps
24th.
this year.
July 29th.
Just have to switch the dates because they're relocated.
Yeah.
The time.
6th. September 30th. October 28th. November 25th.
We can't do that, CAC's.
Oh, CAC, yep, okay, so we're not doing November or December.
It's November, you have Veterans Day, Elections Day, and then Thanksgiving, so there's only one meeting.
We need those,
Yeah.
okay.
Said no on May 27th, right, 'cause the day after.
Correct.
Well, we continue on with other topics if you can cross-reference with this. Yeah. I just don't, fine, if you want to rewrite that resolution.
Let's see what happens.
Okay.
Need a whole other one for at 6 PM.
October 28th, you can't do it because you have CAC.
October 28th, we can't do? Oh, you're right, I missed that.
It's just at the normal times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, yeah,
For October, November, December.
Oh, I didn't have CAC on there. CAC is that late?
Yes, because of the way the town board meetings are scheduled, if we have any, reports that we need from them or wetlands, they need to meet then instead of in,
I just don't think I have
Yeah.
CAC's calendar on my thingy.
no, we adjusted, and I had gone over that with Howard to make sure, like, the reason I was suggesting
Yeah.
those dates was so that they could just be ready for town board meetings, so we could get applications.
Other than October, November, and December, which Tuesdays are not happening? Or not?
May.
May?
Yeah. Are you able to access that from here and reprint it for us?
So 29 is okay. August 26th is okay.
Just leaving it blank. Should get my agenda back.
September 30th, okay.
Yes, I'm writing the resolution.
Take off the front page, because I just realized.
No October, no November.
October, November, December.
Yeah, September's okay.
Okay, it's just May, October, November, December.
Yeah.
I guess it was December 30th, we were supposed to have a town board meeting. And I've been told that no one else wants to have that meeting. So
I passed on the message, guys.
so we're canceling the December 30th meeting at 6 PM. So just letting the public know. I think on the website, it's already been updated. I had passed around something I'd gotten from Bethany for FIT memberships. So, for 2024, we need to set the fees, but also the request would come from the school to make the youth memberships free for Shelter Island students. So so starting at the top of what Bethany had given me, daily pass, $15 a day.
What was it before?
Yeah.
What's
15.
changed?
I'm going to go through that.
Oh, okay.
It's 15, and I think it's been 15 for a number of years now. I think it may have started at 10 at one point, went up. So the question is, actually, we didn't get a chance to do more research on that one. But do we want to keep it at 15? Or give it?
These were the fees for 24, not 25.
No, what I gave you is the fee, her proposed fees for
Okay.
2025. So I went through and pulled the FIT membership application, but the dailies aren't on there.
It's gonna go to $20, and that sounds like a lot.
Right, yeah, so do we keep it for 15 for a couple more years and then take it up to 20,
Yeah.
so that it's a round number? I don't think we get a lot of daily passes.
Maybe just in the summer.
Yeah. The 1 month membership was $100 last year, and she's proposing keeping it $100 this year.
I mean, are these decisions made against the budget? Actual or?
We, yes, I mean, when she looked at the numbers for revenues and what she gave us, she incorporated that. When we looked at it and said, okay, if we're taking away the youth membership for the school, I think she had originally looked at all youth memberships, and that was like 2,000. But we kept the budget where she had put it because we figured there might be a little bit of growth, since we were looking at where revenues have come in so far for this year. They were trending on budget or a little bit above.
Okay. So there's no real loss of revenue by dropping the kids.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
the question
So
is,
there's no need to raise it otherwise. Okay.
yeah, the youth membership was $50, so we're losing the Shelter Island youth, but there are youth, you know, summer kids and things like weekend kids, stuff like that. College student membership was 100. She's proposing keeping that at 100. Volunteer for EMT or fire, $175 a year. That's the same as last year. The individual membership, she's taking up $10 from $285 to $295. And the family membership from $440 to $455, so an increase of $15.
Two adults, not two for children.
Just curious, with the fog, is there any way to track how many people fit in each category?
Yes, if we want to do a deeper dive, she said we can do that.
We can.
Yeah, because the next topic that has been floated in the community, and I know we have one community member here who may or may not want to come up and speak, but also I've gotten an email from Mary Wilson just before the meeting started. She wasn't able to come. She's feeling under the weather, but she was also asking if membership fees for seniors could be reviewed as well. She thought that the membership fee was rather high for seniors, herself included, living on fixed income.
That's right. Where
Where is that?
is that? It's not in here.
And no, we don't have a category.
Oh,
So we
okay.
would be creating a category, and it's whether, do we want to? When I did check in with Bethany and Kelsey. Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna call her Emily, and not, like, wait, which, they said about 60% of the membership is seniors.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's really where we make all our.
So So, yeah, it would be a big budget hit. So I was trying to think of other ways to make it, you know, like, how about if someone has enhanced STAR on their real estate tax bill? Could they be eligible for a discount? So that, you know, that's a proof that someone actually is in a lower income tax
Yeah,
bracket. We
do
don't.
they have a financial?
Yeah, and we don't have to ask them for tax returns or anything like that to prove that they're in that bracket. It's already been done and vetted, and
But that's still half the population that uses this.
well, we don't know. I mean, we'd have to do a deeper dive to see what the
Yeah.
cost of that would be.
Yeah, let's think it's hard to make an informed decision without,
Yeah, but the
The
question
usage
is, you know, what kind of, and I don't know, Cynthia, did you want to come up and say anything, or you just wanted to be here?
No, you're saying 50% of the population at the club right now is
Oh, just state your
senior.
name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry, Cindy Michalak, 17A Price Lane, 17A South Cartwright Road is my tax payment address. The thing is, you're saying 50% now, but I know at least a dozen people that are all seniors, that are spouses of the fire department or auxiliary members, so they're only paying $175. They're not paying $295 or whatever, or $285 that you were saying. So that's gonna make a difference. You're talking about over $100 that they're considering that we can't, as I volunteer to auxiliary, I volunteer at the 5 and 10K as a nurse. I volunteer at different things that I can, you know what I mean, at the church, whatever you can do. The seniors that we just need to get out and move a little bit. I would probably never do it in the summertime. I've never, even when I joined, I never did it in the summertime. And we all, as we age, are getting osteoporosis, you know, arthritis, osteopenia. You need to move around. And right now, it's cold, it's icy, or raining. Today is gorgeous. But it's not always like that. The roads aren't meant, you know what I mean? A lot of these roads, there are no sidewalks, and I don't want sidewalks, but it's dangerous to walk on a lot of roads on Shelter Island. You know what I mean? And in the wintertime with the snow and the ice, or it's just too cold. Me personally, you know what I mean? I would do it maybe 1 or 2 days a week just to use different machines because I have a torn medial meniscus and other problems that are beneficial to using the machines. I have bought every exercise machine almost possible, and all I used to do is hang clothes on it eventually, you know what I mean? And then go into the dump. So, you know what I mean? So something like that, once in a while, I've gone to physical therapy for certain injuries, like to continue on the machines, but then I have to pay this much more money. And it's, you know, for the few times I might use it, and it's only probably gonna be in the winter time anyway, I just thought that a senior discount, a lot of places give senior discounts, and I just thought if you found out how much money or how many of these seniors are already paying discounted rate because they're either EMS spouses or EMS people, and the same with the fire department spouses, and they're already getting a discounted rate, so you're not taking it away, a lot of money away.
Is that the policy?
And having kids who can exercise all day long and run around and ride bicycles where older people can't, to give them something for free. I don't think $50 for a kid for a year is a lot of money. You know what I mean? They get used to the gym every day when they're at school. They can use all that stuff. You know what I mean? I think that a senior citizen, there are a lot of us that need to keep moving, so we're the ones that volunteer for everything. You know, if it wasn't for the senior citizens, you're not gonna have much left on Shelter Island. You know, we pay taxes just like they pay taxes. Some of them don't pay taxes. They have kids in the school. I've never had children. So for 30 years, I pay taxes for having other kids in the school. You know what I mean? I just feel that senior citizens deserve some kind of a discount at the Fit Center.
That's good.
Okay? Think about it, something to think about. It's not just for me, and like I said, other people have come up to me and asked me that they just don't want to come and verbalize it, and I just wanted to say something, so, you know, whatever happens, happens. I can't control that, you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely something to think about, but the problem is we can't make a decision like that today without actually seeing the numbers.
Yeah.
What I would suggest is that we go ahead and adopt these Fit Center fees so we can get started for the new year. Chelsea and Bethany can do a deep dive and dissect the numbers. And we can also look, you know, do we want to give, you know, someone grabbed me the other day because they, you know, saw over the weekend that this was going to be on the agenda and was like, how about just a 10% discount? So not like a, you know, like, so there's a spectrum of what we could do and consider.
If you did the discount, would it impact these other rates?
Yes, I mean,
Yes,
that's what we have to do. Is kind of-
If you use these now, then you'll have to go back.
Well, it depends on the surpluses.
Yeah.
Well, no matter what,
Yeah.
we'll have to.
Yeah, we'd have to,
amend
yeah,
it
we'd have to make a
anyway.
category to say, you know, senior individual is this and
Yeah.
seniors
Good idea
family
and
is
stuff.
this.
295 will be,
Mhm.
What's the age of a senior?
Well, that's part of the question too, because when I was talking to Bethany and Kelsey, they were like 60, and I'm like, yeah, I think generally the town uses 60. Like, I can go to a senior luncheon and get the discounted rate, because
so can I, by the way.
I know, because I'm 62, and I'm like, I don't really feel like a senior, but that's, you know, like, we'd have to define that as well, I think, because that also could impact how we slice the numbers.
I think it's worth
The
pursuing.
flip side is it
Maybe
could bring more
consider.
people
Definitely.
into the center.
Right.
So
and that's
you
what-
could gain more patrons,
Mhm. So I think,
something to weigh.
but if we're gonna dice these, like, give me some ideas so that
Okay.
we can direct our staff to how to look at the numbers, like what would we want to consider a senior?
Wait a sec, here we go. I'm a senior, I think, and I'm a member, so should I recuse myself from this?
I think all four of you should, and then just make a decision. No, I don't think.
I mean, I'm serious.
No, but I mean, the ethics board has looked at things, and so if it's something that applies to the entire town, then you don't have to, like, we don't have to recuse ourselves, because we're going to be subject to it. The same with committee members, you know.
I'll step up with the cane out of my car.
But I think it would be helpful to know a breakdown of the population that currently uses the Fit Center, so how many people in each one of these categories, and then, but we don't really have an age range for the individuals or the family memberships, do we? When people sign up, do they say, give birth dates? I didn't.
Yes, your date of birth is on your primary member
Okay.
and on your additional member.
For
So-
children up to.
All right,
Yeah.
so we might be able to determine how
Yeah,
many
that's
people
why I
over
want-
60 use the gym.
Well, that's why I want to know, like, give me a cutoff.
Yeah.
Like,
See the numbers and then go from
but
there.
no, but do we want to say senior is 60? Do we want to say senior is 65? Or 70 is the new senior?
I'd say 65.
Because it's
Gives me a
Medicare.
couple more years.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of feel like, I mean, what, full retirement is now 66, so
Yeah, or 67, 66,
never gonna get to retirement.
And apparently, according to this, I mean, the way these numbers are stacking up, you have to be at least 14 to use the fit center?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna use 65 as the age cutoff.
I think, look at 10% discount, that seems
And
reasonable.
I was gonna say, what about the discount? Or do we want to do anything that is income driven? Like, I don't, like, I'll have to talk to Judith. I mean, I've talked to her a little bit about, you know,
Discount
IAs
is-
and transfers, you know, like someone who's star eligible, or enhanced star eligible.
I think just 65, and why make this more complicated?
Yeah.
It'll still be a huge number.
Well, there
Yeah.
could be, we could do two different tiers. So one could be if you're 65 or older, it's 10% off. And then if you do qualify for the star exemption, it could be like a financial assistance kind of thing.
But well, we gotta figure out where the missing money is gonna come from, because we gotta figure out what the impact is.
Yes.
Right, so we just need to see more data.
Yeah, so just doing a rough and dirty, we budgeted next year $81,000 for fit revenues. So if 60% are eligible for a senior discount, that's 48,600, and if we give them a 10% discount, that's gonna cost us $4,860.
Yeah.
Ouch.
There's a reason why we haven't done this in the past.
That's why I was like
Yeah.
further limiting it to
Right.
enhanced star eligible.
I think we first need to see the numbers and how many people fit into what category.
Actually, I know what we're
Okay.
talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you want a breakdown of, 60 to 65, 65 to 70, 75, I mean, because we might want to set it at 70.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Okay.
Then we'd also see what the potential financial impact would be in the future if we have the lineup of agents.
Maybe for over 80, you should get it for free.
Well, we could give them money.
If you're 80 and going to the gym, you should get it for free.
There's a fair number of those.
All right, so we'll get some more numbers and then
But I would like to, because the staff will need to do this breakdown, and we then will need a work session to discuss this. I would like to adopt this fee schedule.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then we can add in a new level if we decide that we're going to.
Just note that, we don't have any numbers back, but we're trusting the staff that runs the Fit Center and happy to do that
To what,
for this schedule.
yes.
Because we haven't seen the backup numbers, but I don't want to.
Oh, yeah, no, Bethany, definitely.
Yeah.
She's done the
she's-
calculations on this. Yeah. Okay. Any other commentary from the public? Anyone on Zoom? So we will adopt this at the organizational meeting. Bethany will probably, with New Year's resolutions, start to get applications coming in the first week of January. So
Right.
I'll tell her it's okay to go with that, anticipating that we're going to pass this.
Perfect.
Traffic changes in the Heights. We had the public hearing on that yesterday. You said you actually had an opportunity to go back and watch the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if you did, because it was
I
a
didn't
long,
get to
I
that.
was gonna say, we didn't anticipate it, but.
I saw a review of the dock law, but
Yes.
no, I didn't get to that. I started it, but then
Yeah, no, it was, I mean, I think I got home at 10 o'clock last night, so by the time I put everything away.
It was long.
So we just had letters of support, and
Yes, I
people in the
saw.
public, so the
was no
reason,
opposition.
what I wanted to do is put it on for adoption today, because the Heights did ask that we expedite it so that they can start to get their signage ordered and get people used to the idea, so by the time summer season's here, at least those who are here are trained to go, so then they'll just be dealing with newcomers.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you have another question?
No.
I don't have any problem with it at all
Yeah.
myself. I
Yeah,
think
no.
it's a good thing.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I've seen it, kind of go off island on a Friday and do it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
I know the 3 people who live on that triangle and they are all in support of this.
Yes, I was gonna say, one of them,
There's a lot of
one of them
support
spoke, and that was my biggest concern, is that the people who are living right there, affected by it the most, whether or not it would be an inconvenience for them to then have to approach their driveways by one direction, but that didn't even come up, so.
One of them said, even though it'll be more inconvenient for me, I don't care, it's a good idea. So,
Yes,
I figured that's,
Do they have, I didn't, not hearing last night, did they have a proposed plan of how they're gonna set it up? The one-way, actually?
which
okay.
direction?
Yeah, well, no, in which direction, but how they're
how
gonna
the
physically
signage is
do
gonna-
it, yeah.
They're gonna do it with signage markings. So they didn't present anything, but that's, once they get the go-ahead, they'll.
It's gonna be hard for people to.
to stop the habit.
It's a beaten path, yeah, to go
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, although when you come down Prospect, in your, like where that triangle is, you've got the pharmacy over here, there'll be something, like,
Don't enter.
do not enter. So hopefully it can be eye-catching enough that, because that's really where the signage needs to go.
Put down those one-way spikes in the road, so if you go the wrong way, your tires blow out.
That could be more of a hassle.
Sorry.
That's a Heights problem, not ours.
That's a little too much of an aggressive solution.
All right, so we can adopt that when we go back into the special meeting. We closed before the Cartwright. We did properly close that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How do we feel? Would we like to proceed?
I think Gordon has to leave the room.
Oh, yes, I forgot. Off you go again.
So we're back into session.
Not yet.
No,
No, this
not
is the
yet.
work session, because we had to have the public hearing, and then we need the work session to discuss whether or not we want to proceed. So,
So with this one, I have some questions about the acquisition.
okay,
I mean, it seems to be a change in policy to be purchasing a property with a house on it. It's not something that CPF has endorsed in the past, and we didn't actually get a presentation on why we should do it now. And if we are going to purchase the property with the house on it, what are we gonna do with it? What's the plan? Like, are we going to use it? Can we use it? Or are we gonna demolish it? If we're gonna demolish it, what's the cost? Like, I just have a lot of questions. I do think it's a great property. It has a ton of potential. It's a large piece. But I think that I still have some questions that I haven't really had answers to, and I haven't been presented with a solid plan on, what the CPF wants to do with it. I think the question of whether or not we could put a dock on it is a great question. We do have a shortage of town docks. If you ask people, there's waiting lists at all of our town docks for slips. Is that something that we could do here?
Yeah, the answer to that one, yes.
Yeah, we could, but the question is, in the past, the CPF committee has said, no, we don't want to do that. Like with the Ram Island Causeway purchase, the committee said, we don't want that option in the purchase agreement. So I want to know what will be allowed and what they would be okay.
But you would include that in the approval resolution, the acquisition resolution, that the property to be used for, including but not limited to, and throw that on. And then you dictate, not the CPF board, as to what uses can be made on that property. They can recommend, but.
Right.
So that's not currently written into. the
There's
draft.
nothing, yeah, there's really nothing in here except go buy it, but there's just a lot of gaps in like what the plan is. I guess that's just I'm not comfortable because I don't know what the plan is for this.
I guess it's unusual because.
I don't think anybody does, Meg. And can we just build in flexibility? I mean, we really don't know. I'm sure people in the community will have ideas to come forward. We heard one today.
But what are the conditions that are going to be in the contract? Like, do we need to know that now?
No.
Resolutions, won't be in the contract, but, yeah, there must be a way to build in some flexibility here, because, I mean, what's unusual here is the property is typical CPF purchase. It's beautiful waterfront property that is large, it should be preserved. It's, you know, you don't want something like that developed, but it has improvements on it already.
Right, which is something that in the past, the committee shied away from doing. So I would like some more answers or a more solid plan on exactly what people want to do with this. I mean, I think it's a great property. It has a lot of potential. I would love to see a community garden on it. There's there's a lot of ways that this property could benefit us, and I totally understand that, but
So basically in the code, not code, in the law rather, it says you can use it for the establishment of parks, nature preserves, or recreation areas.
Yeah, it has to be.
And so you put that in there and then including but not limited to dockage or, put on a dock. So then, as Albert was saying, you have the flexibility because the language is park, nature preserve, recreation area. And you get to define what that is after the fact, but you have that.
Well, do we have to say dock, can we say water access or water access? Because maybe it's just a place to launch kayaks.
No, but from a dock right now.
Well,
I mean, a dock would actually be better for the environment than traipsing
Yeah,
back and
pumping along.
forth through the
Yeah.
grasses. That's typically why the DEC would approve a dock, is because it brings you over the wetlands instead of.
No, but you're saying it generally, and you're just putting some language in the resolution for when and if there's any pushback that, well, it was contemplated by the town board at the time, including a dock. Doesn't say you have to put a dock in, but
Right,
it could be
just
used for
optional.
recreational uses, including a dock.
But leaving it out in the past has saved us or helped us. Don't
What
make
do
me
you
cite an example. So, but I think building in some flexibility is a good thing. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we do, I just realized that Gail Wickham, who is the CPF attorney, has gotten back to us with a letter, so I'm just getting it now, yeah, and I don't know whether or not. Stephen, is this something that should just be dealt with in a legal session, or if it is okay for public?
Where is the town board sitting right now as far as going ahead with it?
Well, I think, I mean, we did not put any value on the buildings itself. It is a land-only acquisition, so it's not like we're.
I was thinking that, yeah.
No, but I think part of it, so none of the money that's being used for this it's just purely for land. So if we can get a benefit or do something with the building, I feel like that's a conversation that once we've acquired it, we have that conversation, especially since it's
Okay,
changed.
all right. I thought you said you precluded that.
No,
by
no,
the
no, I'm
building.
just
I
saying,
thought it's something that will develop, I think.
yeah.
We'll get input, whatever, people have ideas,
But it, yeah.
or maybe not. Or maybe we decide to take the building down. I don't know. We really have to have it inspected to see what's involved with it, and how usable it is.
I mean, that inspection is taking place, the reports are being written up, so.
Oh, okay.
also, I know this was a little time sensitive originally, and we don't want to run the risk of losing this particular piece of property. It's too wonderful.
Yes, and in answer to the questions that were raised earlier is, what's the hurry? Why are we rushing this? Yeah.
We don't want it to go away.
Right, yeah, the risk is that we don't get to keep it.
And also, okay, whether we keep the house that's on it and there's a tennis court too, or take them out, where does that money come from? The demo costs, and if we keep it, there's ongoing maintenance.
Yeah, it would all have to come out of CPF.
Well, if we demo the building, then it comes out of CPF because then we're
Right.
returning it to a natural state. If we choose to do something else with it that's allowable, that's another question.
Yeah.
So even for originally the inspection, you know, it was suggested to do an outside, you know, have an outside home inspector come in and look at it and use CPF funds. And it was like, well, wait, we're not paying anything for the building. We don't know how we're going to use it. Why are we going to spend CPF money to look into something? It's like, it seemed unknown to me. But then we have a town engineer and a head building inspector who have credentials over and above what a home inspector has. So
Right.
they, you know, we didn't have to pay for them.
But if you're looking at the appraised value, and the appraised value was for improved parcel or unimproved parcel,
Improved.
so then this is just a win. Like you're purchasing just the land and you have these added structures that you could potentially do something else with. So I think it's just a windfall.
Doesn't the CPF legislation, as you read, say parks, recreation, whatever you read, isn't that part of this purchase?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't even have to put any defined things in the resolution, do we?
I would think you do, just because, and I think we do reference recreation.
You don't, someone's gonna bring it up.
Similar to every other resolution.
Yeah, in here, we have, whereas the town board has determined that this acquisition is the best alternative for the protection of community character of all reasonable alternatives available to the town, namely passive recreational use. So it does reference passive recreational use. Already in the resolution.
What is that, a previous resolution?
No, this is.
We have this one.
So if the town board decides to go ahead with purchasing this, we can go into a special meeting and you could pass that resolution purchasing the property. If you want to do it today, we can get it done.
What I would rather see, rather than like putting in and trying to limit, like, oh, a dock's okay, or this is possibly okay, I'd rather do a more broad, like, anything allowable under section 50-1.
Well, you have to you have to say you're purchasing it for a particular reason out of four. Or has,
Okay.
you know, because you gotta say, you know, we examine the property and we want to use it. You have to justify the purchase, not just so I think if you just stick it to A, establishment of a park, nature preserve, or recreational area. If we put it in instead of passive recreation, put it into that, because you don't want to just preserve it for open space. You're not just preserving it for its scenic value, because you potentially want more than that.
Right.
Well, if required for open space, that would preclude putting a dock in.
Correct, that's what I'm saying. That's why you want to lean on A, which is establishment of a park, nature preserve, or recreational area.
It's a great piece of property. Town should be happy to have it. I mean, we should do it, figure it out later.
I just don't want to do it and then have the contract itself exclude some of these things that we're discussing today.
Oh, yeah, but
So I just want to
Okay.
make sure that we've made it so that we can,
Yeah, we'll ensure that Gail,
yeah.
you know, and
Let me
it's
forward this
language that doesn't
to you.
restrict.
Yeah, let me forward this to you.
You sent it to me as well.
Yeah, I'll forward it to everybody.
Not that familiar with that area. I'm not at all familiar with that area if there's enough water there for a dock.
No, but you don't have to. It's just something that we could do if possible.
It's just a launching dock for kayaks, so it's like a small,
need that
like,
much water,
little short thing, but it gets people over the wetlands. It's a good option.
You should have that in your email now. Yeah, because I mean, I haven't had a chance to look at this carefully.
And we're sure this property is on within the project plan, right? The Community Preservation Project Plan, it is listed.
So we have no improved properties on the current CPF acquisition plan. Is that what you're talking about?
It's on Schedule 3.
It's on Schedule 3. It's the.
Yeah, so it is within
It
it.
lists every property over 3 acres.
So it is on, like, we have a stale
Got it.
project plan that needs to be updated.
Okay,
You know, the law is crystal clear that, you know, our project plan is stale.
mhm.
So we have to update it. It's very important that we update it ASAP.
But I mean, it is supposed to list the properties, I thought it had to list property, like every other town lists the.
Correct. Yeah, it's on schedule. From what I'm hearing, it's on schedule 3,
It's on
this particular property.
Schedule 3 is any properties over 3 acres.
Yes,
Period.
Okay,
it's listed,
okay. So
address,
it's-
name, it's on there. I looked.
Yeah, so I think we're good to go. You know, could be an argument to be made that, you know, we shouldn't be doing anything until our project plan is updated, but there's no case law saying that. It's just, you know, but we got to get on top of it.
Yeah, no, we're gonna schedule a second subcommittee meeting in January. The broad language of the statute, a number of suitable uses could be considered. For example, the use of the building could take the form of educational uses which are related to section 6A1 aspects of the property. This could include school or library programs, speaker programs, nature programs, aquatic improvement programs, programs related to recreational matters if the property is to be used in that manner, other educational and administrative projects related to the uses set forth in the first paragraph of this letter. So it may be used for public use and enjoyment.
That include town board member offices.
I don't think
No.
that's education.
Internship.
A museum-type use could be possible under the historical umbrella, but we're not aware of any specific historical value of the residence itself or prior historical use of the property. Outdoor uses that are passive. Small community recreation center within the building would appear to be compatible with the statute. Use of the building for all types of public events would not be permitted. Yeah, so there's more that needs to be done.
It's tricky.
Yeah, further analysis needs to be done. We need to get the reports on the building condition. We were going to try and,
Can this be done in stages? Can we purchase it and then after bantering it around, getting support from the structure, getting ideas maybe from the public?
Well, I think that should be done prior to purchasing it. It should be.
Well, but again, if the property value that you're looking at is just for the land
It's just for the
itself,
land. You have to assume we're gonna
And you
build
can-
everything down.
regardless if you have the buildings or not, you can use the property as a park or a nature preserve or whatever. And it's a good deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the buildings are fluff, icing.
Yeah,
See
anything
what you
else
can do with
is
it.
a bonus.
yeah, I mean, the question for you is what needs to go into this resolution that would be different?
I just think that, and we can just approve it as amended, just put in the language of A.
What is the language of
Oh,
A?
I'm sorry. So basically to be the establishment, so after namely in the third whereas paragraph,
Mhm.
namely the establishment of a park, nature preserve, or recreational area. And you could do with possible inclusion of a dock if you wanted to just put that in there, just so the public's aware and, you know, we have that history, if anyone questions whether or not a dock can go in or is the intention of the town to put a dock in.
So give me that language again, please. I just want to reread it, comparing it to the legal letter.
Okay, So namely, the establishment of a park, nature preserve, or recreational area with potential inclusion of a dock.
But now if we do something with the building that is related to educational uses, because that's what school or library programs, speaker programs, nature programs, aquatic improvement programs, other education administrative projects related to the uses set forth above.
Yeah, but I think.
So do we want to add establishment of a park, nature preserve, recreational areas, or educational uses?
I don't think it could.
Yeah, if you bring up the letter. Under the section given the shorefront.
I don't think it could hurt.
So I feel like
Say recreational or educational with potential inclusion of a dock.
yes. How do the rest of you feel about that?
I'm okay with that. The historical improv is interesting. Okay.
Why do you say it's not?
You're not allowed to talk, the public hearing's closed.
You like that, didn't you?
Anyway, equal opportunity, shut her down. Going back to public comments. So we've talked about that it is included, the CPF acquisition plan.
Is there a draft of the acquisition plan out there?
Yes. Yes, it's being worked on.
Okay.
There's multiple drafts out there. We figured out which one we're starting from.
Do stuff. Can't talk about it. Okay.
No.
I gotta say, I'm not in favor of including a dock in the resolution. I don't think we need to do that.
I think.
Do you think it's covered already, or do you want to exclude
He
it?
wants to.
I don't think it should be included.
Okay.
I think a dock there's traffic, there's people, there's liability, I don't see that.
I don't have a problem with putting it in while we do this analysis about how we're going, what the stewardship of this property is going to be. We may come to the conclusion and say, no, like, this is not a good idea. And we won't proceed with it.
Maybe this is a question to Stephen. If you add this dock language in, Stephen, isn't it attached to the recreational use? I mean, I kind of agree with Albert a little bit. Like, I don't want to see a commercial dock here.
I mean, you said.
No.
Wouldn't be
I
commercial
want to see a
dock.
dock associated with recreational use, like kayaking.
Possible inclusion of a recreational dock.
That would make me feel better.
Yeah, I
Do we
yes.
have to clarify it? Wouldn't a recreational dock fall under recreational activity?
Well, again, if you want to ensure that happens, because who knows in the future, because, there's these, oyster farmers and aquaculture and things like that, potentially future boards and, try to say that that's, recreational sort of for the people to start growing that stuff, and then it morphs into commercial. And this, if you're really strict with it in the resolution, you're handcuffing that future further use, further expansion, as opposed to making it crystal clear. Any dock would have to be recreational in nature.
I don't mind the language recreational dock. But I think the recreational has to be there because we don't want to see a Congdon Road dock 2 there.
No, no. Christina, can I get screen share? Where's the parcel?
I did the outline of it.
Hmm.
I don't remember the picture.
So there are docks on the adjacent properties.
Well, the one up from it is Congdon. Well, you go-
No, I think there's
No.
another one in between.
There is.
It gets somewhat narrow in there, so wouldn't be a lot. You couldn't put a very big,
shell into it.
yeah, you wouldn't be able to get a very big dock in there. But a commercial dock would not be appropriate, plus that, to me, goes against the recreation.
I mean, to Albert's point, I'm okay with adding the word recreational in front of dock.
Yes, I am too.
And what'd you say, Beth?
Oh, adding the word recreational in front of dock, because that would limit what people in the future can construe this to be about.
This is why I feel like it's up before. Purchaser.
The biggest concern is just a little bit of the timeliness. Making sure that we don't lose the property to the open market.
Yeah, and the base purchase is the land, so, yeah, the rest of this is not important as a prerequisite. Worst case
Exactly.
scenario is, we can't do anything, we tear the house down.
Yeah. Right.
But it would be nice to figure
I
out
don't,
something.
I don't want to exclude any of our options at this point. Because I feel like we keep buying land and then
That's
we
okay.
can't touch it. But I do think that if we're going to keep preserving land, we need it to have, the public should be able to use it in some fashion for recreation, other than just walking on the 2-minute trail. Like, I feel like it needs to give back to the community a little bit more than just, being used for recharge.
But we're doing that by acquiring it under A.
I was gonna say, with this wording, establishment of a park, nature preserve, or recreational area or educational with
Yeah.
potential inclusion of a recreational dock. Like what do you think's gotten excluded?
No, that, I'm much better with that language. I just feel like before, it wasn't giving me those options. Yeah. And I'd like to see those options on a purchase like this.
Let's do those options plus a recreational dock, and I think we're covered.
I think so too.
What's a recreational dock?
Not a commercial dock.
No, I'm saying, don't we have the flexibility to possibly consider that down the road rather than put it in resolution?
Yes, but.
Why do we put it in there?
But again, then, there wouldn't be any confusion and discretion exercised against it because the town board at the time purchased it contemplating a potential dock there versus people who would be adamantly opposed to it, saying that's not a dock, is a fixed structure, has nothing to do with recreation. It just, which way the town board wants to go. If you feel you want a dock there, potentially include the language. If you're up in the air, it can still be done, but it's not overt.
Myself, I would rather not have the language dock in the resolution. That's where
Here's the thing where it might benefit. The current kayak operation on Burns Road. They store and launch those kayaks, walk through the wetlands, into the water. I mean, they're just tromping all over the wetlands. If we build a recreational dock here, maybe that can be moved down there and.
That's gonna make people go out on the dock. They're not gonna drag their kayak through the wetlands, Ben. Come on.
No, they'll.
They're gonna go out on the
Down the dock.
dock and get in the boat, get in their kayak from the dock? No.
If you build the right kind of dock.
Yeah, if it's a kayak dock, yes, but if it's a regular dock, no.
I just think that we own so little waterfront properties that if we have a waterfront property that has the potential to put a dock on it for residents to use, we shouldn't eliminate that option.
We don't want to open it up to anything.
No, I'm not
But
saying
we're not
open it up for
eliminating
commercial
it
use. I
if
just
it's
think
not
that-
said, right? I mean, if we don't list it,
Arguably.
we're not eliminating it.
That's all.
So just go with A and not add dock language. I mean, A does kind of incorporate that theoretically.
I know, but then you're gonna have to make that leap in the future as opposed to having it.
We've had these discussions in the future, right? I mean, in the past, we've had discussions about purchasing a waterfront property and the possibility of putting a dock on it. We've been told, yeah, sure, you can put a dock on it, and then the contract comes down and it explicitly says no dock.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to avoid
What
that.
contract? I don't understand.
On this-
Causeway,
What
The contract.
the purchase,
Contract,
yeah.
Yeah.
It'll say that?
Yeah,
Yeah, because the seller
No, the
can put
county says
conditions
that.
because it's
yeah.
conditions of sale. You know what I mean? Like, but that wasn't from the county. So I just want to make sure that we understand what the possibilities are and what the potential is for it.
How about with the potential inclusion of a non-commercial dock?
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's really what we're trying to
Right.
accomplish, is that it doesn't get used for commercial purposes and it doesn't become larger.
I mean, I guess the question is the town renting slips of commercial usage of the dock, or are we providing service to residents? And this is all gonna obviously come up if we ever propose to put a dock there, then it would be a whole debate. I'm just trying to leave the door open to that potential in the future, because we have so many wait lists on all of our,
Yeah, but that's the
docks
use
and
we don't want
moorings
here.
and-
That's the exact
I'm not
use we don't
saying-
want here.
like, just for residents who have no place to put their boat,
That's the use we don't want here. We don't want
We don't want a
Power
storage
boats.
area.
tied up to the dock as far as the eye can see. What we want is we want people to have recreational access to the water via dock.
But it'd be temporary access.
Trans.
Yeah, transient access.
Non-motorized.
So then why don't you just say a kayak though?
Yeah, we can do that.
And again, you're still not, if you say with possible inclusion of a kayak dock. You could still have the argument down the road as to what type of dock you want to put there, because it's under, but at least you have some reference to a dock to hang your hat on if you want a dock in the future.
I'm okay with that. Especially if you want to call it a kayak dock. That's the use I envision for this. I don't envision
Yeah, no, me
Condon
too.
Road
Just
2.
something that gives people another point of access to the water.
Okay,
Is that all right, Albert, the kayak dock?
I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with that.
I'm outnumbered. I don't want to see a dock. I'd hate to see that property have a dock.
I think a kayak dock is kind of fits in with the,
There's so many town landings where you could put a kayak in around Shelter Island. What do we have, 50 town landings? You could kayak, you pull up anywhere and put your kayak in. Why do we need to
Well,
put in a kayak dock?
Well,
That's all.
I've heard
I mean-
rumors that there's ideas of renting the building to Cornell Cooperative. Don't you think they'd want access to the water? Would you want to put a dock of some kind there? This is why there've been all these things and ideas about this property that have been talked about, but I'm trying to plan for them in the future. You know, if that's something that we really want to consider, and it says in the legislation, you can use it for, aquatic improvement programs. So is that something that we want to consider now? And if you put in a kayak dock type of thing, then you have that access without traipsing through the wetlands, and you could have some kind of aquatic improvement program there. You know, I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to not shut down doors on potential opportunities for the property if we're going to buy it. That's my thinking.
But
I've never seen a kayak with an outboard.
Right. You know, so.
So I'm okay with it.
It's like public hearing's closed, so
Engineer.
we
I mean,
bring in our town engineer
He
for
did look at
discussion
the
on this.
building. I don't know what.
Like, we closed the public hearing earlier.
Yeah, you really should.
No,
No.
yeah, sorry, Joe. Lower that hand.
Kayak dock I'm fine with. I'm also fine with dock for non-motorized watercraft.
I liked non-commercial dock.
Yeah.
we have private docks that can be, not a commercial dock. We put out a private dock that's more substantial than a kayak.
Yeah, let's go with kayak dock. I think it's fine.
But, I mean, that's,
But I think this is a decision, the type and extent of the dock is a decision we would have to make with public input.
Yeah, 'cause
So I don't think it's
you
a
have
decision to try to make at the table here.
yeah, I was gonna say, we will have to make that decision in the future. There'll be a public hearing on,
If at some point in the future we
After
even want to
review.
do it.
But if we just had the language of A put in the resolution, that still gives us the flexibility down the road
Have a public hearing.
to consider it. Yeah,
You're not gonna have a public hearing in the future as to whether or not to have a dock. That's a,
we should be subject to our own rules.
it's,
We should be subject to our own rules.
I
It
guess.
should be a public hearing.
Right? Yeah. Absolutely. I don't want to open it up too much. I mean, I want to keep options
Mhm.
open, but not all options.
Okay, so it just will read then establishment of a park, nature preserve, recreational area, or educational area?
Recreational or educational. I think educational is simple. Like you don't necessarily,
Superfluous?
yeah. But
But at the moment, we've got legal advice saying that these are potential uses, and so I don't know if I heard recreational, but I would automatically
I think education.
think educational.
right, again, there's no harm in throwing it.
Mhm. Yeah, I just want to keep our options open.
Yeah,
And
put
so
it in.
by,
Can't
so
hurt.
by not putting in with potential inclusion of a dock, there's still potential inclusion of a dock. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
I would prefer to just say non-commercial dock.
Sure what that means, because
Amber, you and Ben decide where you want to go. Meg and I are on different ends. We'll stay at it.
Commercial dock,
Every
it's
time.
renting slips out of, it's not something that, you know.
okay.
All right, well, the definition in our current code for commercial dock, and like it's getting tweaked a little bit, and there's components about being Z, but or being B zoned. A dock utilized for commercial purposes. So I think, renting out.
That's helpful.
I know. Under this chapter,
This is
shall
hard.
be,
I don't know.
located in B zone property with title held by an existing commercial boatyard exclusively used and operated for boatyard or marina. We don't want it to go creep into
Right.
that boatyard or marina type
Right.
situation.
You could say a non-commercial dock for non-motorized watercraft.
To Meg's point,
Where are you guys taking this? You're going way.
yeah, but I mean,
Going.
to Meg's point, if we do end up doing something with Cornell Cooperative and they want to do something for, let's take the kids and the public out to
Yeah.
I
I think we should add the educational, hold
Okay.
that language,
and keep,
don't mention the dock.
okay, all right,
And we can have a public hearing later about it.
okay, all right, so Ben and I have decided.
Okay, done.
So will we get 3 votes or no?
I mean, you'll definitely get 3.
Albert, this is what you wanted. You've been voting for this.
I want to just purchase the property. I don't want to mess around with putting dock language in.
No, we're taking the dock language out.
A,
I think-
that's it.
Albert, we're taking the dock language out. That's
Okay.
why you
Okay.
should say yes.
Let's move forward with it.
Yes, okay, thank you.
So will you like redraft that section, and get that to Amber so we can?
Yeah.
Right, back to the agenda, okay.
What?
Board member reports.
Yes.
I've got like a number of things. One of the things that came up yesterday at the doc hearing was a member of the public was disparaging a committee person. I was trying to shut it down to not make it personal.
Yeah.
And so I just want to, like, I will continue to fight against that when people come for public comments. But we do have an ethics board, and this is for the public. We do have an ethics board. So if you think that somebody is
Conflicted.
conflicted, yeah, then go online. There's a form that can be filled out, and the ethics committee will review the situation and weigh in.
I'm feeling a stronger rebuke is needed because what happened, I listened to it, and it was just disgraceful. And we got to shut that down. That can't happen anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And we should shake our finger at the person who did it.
I was trying to say, like, don't make
Yeah.
this personal, don't make this personal. And it's like, well, no, but there's a point, like,
And the victim of the attack is really upset.
Mm.
And we should note that and recognize it.
Mhm.
And that's why we gotta stop it.
Mhm.
I mean, our committee people are volunteers who are, donating their time to help make this town better. And, and the people who are attacking them, it's just not fair and it's not okay.
Mhm.
And that person should apologize, actually, I think, to the person he was referring to.
Yeah, and that's why I'm bringing it up again, because like, there is a process, and that's like, no,
You cross the line.
it's not the right place for it.
Yeah, I mean, we can't make him apologize, we certainly can recommend it, though.
Yeah.
So, yes, Tom Cronin, you should apologize to Bill Garrity.
You just did the same thing.
Well,
I was gonna do that.
I wasn't attacking him, I was
gonna
just
do it
recommending an apology.
Yes. Again, I'll just, since this is our last work session for the year, notify me, like, just to the public. You got it in your tax bills, the stay informed. But it's easy enough to do online. It gives you, information, especially if you just sign up for the emergency section, ferry delays and closures, flooded roadways, snow emergencies, when storms and hurricanes are coming. And then you could also sign up to be notified when information with respect to the town, recreation department events, town board meetings, things like that. But I just wanted to keep pushing it because December 31st will be the last day that Code Red will be operational. So that's the replacement. I have to get from the two of you changes on board committees, on liaison positions.
I'll get that to you.
We'll do that tonight.
Yeah, just
Get it
so,
off to you.
if it's like, if there's something you'd rather be on, something you'd like to come off, I can like take a look at where all five of us are shaking out and make some changes.
Or nights that don't work.
Yes. Or skill sets that might be better on one committee versus another.
Yeah.
You're a liaison for WAC, so I'll let you do that one. I think that was all that I had. I did not attend.
I do.
You attend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I let Meg take my place.
Are you gonna?
No, go ahead, Ben.
I was gonna say, I'm done.
Okay, who wants to report? All right. So Community Housing Board working on an RFQ for, to get qualified people to help us work on this project. Miriam was not able to log in. We thought she was gonna be on the call, but she wasn't. So we actually set up a meeting with her for Thursday to go over the details of the RFQ that we wanted to see incorporated, that one in the original language, just so that, really kind of clean it up and hone it. So hopefully we'll have a draft of that coming back to us at some point. I know the holidays are coming up, so probably after Christmas, I would think. But the goal is to hopefully get it out to the public in January. That's the mission. So we're meeting with her Thursday at 3, and Ben and I and Liz, I think Bill and Miriam meeting. So there might be someone else.
What's that happening? Do we finalize the date?
Thursday, the 19th at 3 o'clock. So you can Zoom?
Yep.
Okay.
Actually, I'm actually gonna be here now.
Oh, good. That's even better. That'll be a better, conversation. Okay, great. Excellent. I'll just keep going. On Friday, I attended the South Fork Behavioral Health Initiative meeting. It's a 2-hour-long meeting about mental health and well-being of mostly focused on younger people, school-aged children, and working with the schools and social services and psychiatrists, psychologists, trying to make sure that the mental health of the children in our area is being taken care of. The program was started after a suicide in the East Hampton School District back in, I want to say 2012, but I might be wrong. Quote me on the date. But it was very interesting, and they did as Stony Brook did survey that they sent out to all the schools, and they were looking for some really basic information on what kind of services the communities around us need and would want to see incorporated into either the schools or somehow in the town, and what services we need access to. So I'll share that with you. But it was very interesting. Most of the school districts stated that they would really like to see, I'm going to try to pull it up because here we go. Some of it is just access to some general health care, but
This is new.
they're saying the greatest challenge they have is accessing healthcare services in the area of mental health. So we all know that it's a problem, and it's gotten worse since COVID. I think everybody has like a mutual trauma from COVID. But it really seems to be hitting the younger school populations hard. So I'll share this data with you. I think it's very interesting, and we can look at, maybe some possible things that we could do, or even just network building with other communities around us that might be beneficial. So I'll share this with you.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and then in January, we have the Health and Wellness Committee starting up. So they're putting together a list of all the resources around us to help with networking, so that everybody has like a central resource on the website. So even if, someone is personally looking for a service or help, then they might be able to find it on the website and help get direction in that sense. So it was a very interesting meeting it really boils down to a lack of people working in these mental health fields. And the challenge really is keeping people here. So they'll come out to do an internship and then can't find housing, cost of living's too high. And so it's really hard to keep mental health professionals in our area. So it was very interesting, but I'll share the data with you, and we'll try to follow up after the holidays just with some ideas and concepts. Other than that, so WAC, geez, I feel like that was so long ago. It was yesterday. I know, but it feels so long ago. It was a really long night. So let's see, the WAC talked about long discussion about the drought criteria. Yeah, that's what it was. It was a really long discussion about drought criteria.
Did they approve the revised mission statement?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, they did. I mean, does anybody else have something else while I look at
Well, I
what
was
I
gonna
There's
I mean,
planning
if you wanna
board.
go-
Yeah.
We haven't reported on the planning board for last week yet, have we?
No.
No, okay. Well, I mean, nothing earth shattering in the standard part of the meeting. You know, they paid the bills, there were a lot of lot line adjustment applications that were discussed. There was a public hearing on 7 Cheekwood, which is probably the one thing worth reporting on. They talked about the new building plans, which has made the proposed building smaller, but not by that much, but it is smaller. Was it 8 feet on one, and then it was 400 feet on another floor. A number of people spoke from the public against the project. It wasn't, the public hearing was not closed, so it will continue.
Right.
And I think that's really all that is there to report.
So back at WAC, I've got my notes. So there was a really long conversation about the drought criteria, so they're gonna revisit that. We're gonna look at it again. They did approve mission statement, and then the comment that was made to them, I want to say a month or even 2 months ago, was that we need to create like an index of all the studies that have been done about Shelter Island, our groundwater, our everything. So they've been working on creating an index of all of our existing studies with links to each study. It's searchable, it's sortable, and there's a summary of each study and the conclusions and recommendations made by that study in this document. So it's not quite done yet. There are some more documents I'm going to send them that they can include in it, but it's a really cool, really comprehensive overview of all the studies that have been done. You can sort it by year of the study, type of study, topic of study, so it's pretty cool. It's a very helpful resource to have. So it's something that they're working on. So if you have studies about Shelter Island that you think would be handy that maybe they don't have on their list, send them along, they'll add them. And they talked a little bit about the library and the fact they're waiting on their health department approvals. And then there was some talk about RFP for center septic and well reconfiguration options. So to be completely honest, I'm confused about the RFP that they're trying to do.
Yeah, it's like
And this is stemming from
outer
something
space.
that you told them you wanted to see. So if you can go back and look at the video, we need to give them direction, is the
Okay.
bottom line. So,
Yeah, I think it somehow got turned into, as I was sitting there listening, I'm like, who asked for this? Who asked for this?
Apparently I did.
I mean, that's what they're hanging their hat on, so.
Yeah, but I think that it really was related to the indexing of the existing studies. Like that was the future RFP,
Right.
is figure out what we have, pull it
Yes.
together,
That's
look
what
for
happened.
what's missing, what do we have holes in, and then have someone, come in and synthesize what we do have and get what we don't have. So but I think that was it, but they seem to be going on a different track, and so, we were both there and weren't sure, like, I don't think that's what I heard, but maybe there was a different conversation, so we just need to circle back to
Yeah,
that.
so maybe watch the video, you can even fast forward just to the part where they're talking about that if you want to. But just because there's definitely confusion, I know I'm a little confused, they're confused, we need to give them clarity on exactly what we want them to look into. And so I think that's kind of where we at, they need direction from us.
Is that,
They're spinning.
is that what they heard from Ben, or is that where they want to go?
I think it's a combination.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of something Ben said and their interpretation of it, and then what they think the needs are. So I think we need to give clarity and focus to what they're looking at.
Too, about trying to figure out how to help the individual homeowners and trying to have a plan to solve for septic issues and water issues for each individual house, and maybe having a company look at that and make a proposal on how each
Yeah, and then-
homeowner can be helped.
Right, but then
Yes.
it's kind of a scope creep.
Yeah.
So we have to figure out exactly what it is that we're looking for them to put together an RFP for. So I think if everybody at the table, maybe to go back and review, I'll try to figure out what date that meeting was that we were talking about it, but we need to give them a clearer directive, because,
Very quick.
so just everybody look into it, think about it, and let's come up with a plan in the new year. Something that we can give them.
But I think you're right, because I think one member was focused on what do we do to help those in the Central Triangle
Yeah.
that
So I think a few things got conflated.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Mhm.
So just, that's kind of on us to give them better direction, I think.
Community Housing Board, not Community Housing Board, Community Preservation Fund. Didn't that happen last week too?
What
I
happened?
guess Gordon, you can't report, can you?
No, but did we not cover that last week?
Yeah, I think-
Oh, we did.
Right.
That was Monday. and
Yeah,
then
that was Monday, and then we had Tuesday.
Because I didn't
Yeah.
bring that one with me, so
Okay.
that means it was already covered. I forgot I had been to the Suffolk County Supervisors Association on Friday, and the county execs, people gave an update, the 1/8 penny that passed in the, on the proposition. The timing of that, they'll start collecting the money March 1st, but it'll take a few, months for the money to actually start coming in, but that will be what's available to help us get county rebate, IA rebate program jump-started with money. They're also going to use some of that money at the county level to hire people to beef up the staff so that applications can get through faster. And then for the next meeting, they asked everyone to think about what kinds of things the towns would like to go to New York State with for a legislative agenda. Some of the things that came up don't always apply to us, but like ag and market rules for animal shelters doesn't apply. The tax cap, just taking that and, talking to the state and saying, hey, this, 8 out of 10 towns pierced the cap this year. All 10 are anticipating the cap, pierce the cap next year. Like, there needs to be just some discussion about that. How do we accomplish keeping taxes low without having this arbitrary 2% that with pension and health care costs make it impossible to meet?
Where did we fall in that group of 8? We're in the middle?
We were on the low end.
I think we're sort of in the middle. Yeah, we started out I think the highest, but
Yeah,
brought
we
it down.
ended, yeah.
And as to the East End as a whole, in general, Shelter Island taxes are towards the bottom?
Yes.
Are we the least expensive? That's what I thought.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Another topic, just the Environmental Bond Act, just finding out how towns can start, to access that money, and see if it can get pushed down instead of just all getting used up at the state level. Battery and energy storage is an issue up island. I don't know if it'll ever become an issue on Shelter Island, but there are towns that are working on.
Being discussed, those green options.
Yes, I was gonna say, but legislation, because there are, like in Brookhaven and Babylon.
Right.
Babylon has a moratorium while they figure out how to regulate this. And learn more about the pros and cons of, is it good for the environment, bad for the environment? What protections do they need?
Then it's either East Hampton or Southampton, so that they don't think the technology's ready yet, so they kind of have a temporary
Yeah.
ban on it.
Yeah.
Can't remember which
I
community
think
it
it was
was.
East Hampton because they
East
were not
Hampton.
there to speak to it. But anyways, so anything that we want to deal with legislatively, the 10 supervisors for Suffolk want to get together and make up a list, and then a group will take that up to Albany to
That's a
kind of
great
promote
idea.
it. So let me know if you have ideas. And I forgot also, we have jobs posted for a caseworker, social worker, and then we still are looking for volunteers on the Community Preservation Fund Advisory Board, the Ferry Study Group, Green Options, Licensing Review Board.
And
Oh, and planning boards, okay, so we've gone live with this one too.
You already got an application for that.
All right, yeah, and
We got one
I did-
application for it.
I hadn't seen that this got posted. I didn't want to jump the gun and have people looking for something that's not posted yet, but that goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's posted.
It won't be on Thursdays.
Yeah, and then I had one more thing that just came to mind with the housing board at the meeting. You know how the governor has the pro-housing community initiative?
Yes. Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
And that, you know, if you're a pro-housing community, it leads to better access to funding. So there's two paths to do that. One is the resolution and the other is by looking at your data. So data-wise, I did all the work, crunched all the numbers, figured all the things out, and we don't meet the statistical growth rate to qualify by data.
Why is
So-
no one surprised?
Super fun. We're at 2.56%. We need to be at 3%. So
Did that include ADUs?
it did.
Wow, really?
It included ADUs and new construction. It did not include accessory sleeping quarters because they don't count. So if it did include accessory sleeping quarters, we might have been okay. But it doesn't. So the community,
That's really sleeping quarter.
it's an ADU without a stove.
Oh,
Don't even get me started.
It's a guest,
Yeah, it's to be used for your guests.
guest or staff.
Yes.
So
I figured it was like my car when I have to fight with my wife, I have to go sleep in the car.
Essentially, it's yeah, the doghouse. So the community housing board asked us if we would look at the resolution option, and I said there was some language in there that I think maybe
Yeah.
Problematic.
I'll recirculate it, but I think when I looked at it last, I was
Yeah.
like, it's dictated to us by the state. We cannot change that.
So there's no tweaking.
it kind of, no,
tweaking.
it has to be
It
as
has-
written, and there's some questionable things that kind of give up our control over our zoning and things like that, which I don't think the public would necessarily go for. But everyone just take a look at it and see what you think. The board just asked us to look at that again.
Just one other thing. So as far as the Association of Towns is concerned, that's the end of January?
Nope, it's,
President's weekend, right?
yeah, it's in February.
Because you're going,
Yes.
I'm going, you're not going.
I'm not going.
I'm not going.
You're not going?
No, we didn't put me in the budget.
Oh.
I thought we put you on the budget.
No, I said, I would forego.
Okay.
I've been
Yeah.
anytime.
And I'm going because I don't have housing costs.
Yeah.
I get to stay at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we sent Amber and Gordon,
Okay.
Association Towns this year.
And Benjamin.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
Right,
in, they're
'cause
paying for my
you're-
ticket, but they don't have to pay for my hotel.
You're cheap, so we'll see. You're half the cost.
Unless you want to pay my.
I mean, unless the budget's changed, but I think we only did for 2.5 people, essentially.
Yes, I think so, yeah. I couldn't remember. I thought I excluded you, but included you. Newly elected's training in January.
Yes.
Has Judy reached out to you?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. So you're gonna try and attend it, yeah.
Is that Albany?
Well, last year was one in Rochester, we got snowed out,
Yeah,
and
we
then,
went to Albany.
then we went to Albany,
Okay.
almost got froze out,
Yes.
so.
Where's this year, at Albany, or it rotates?
I think usually it's Rochester and Albany.
Oh, okay. Oh, the two, they do too.
Yes, yeah, so.
Yeah, Western New York.
It was super helpful. It really was.
When I did it, it was COVID, so it was all on Zoom,
Ooh.
and it was brutal and very informative, but just a lot of sitting in front of a computer screen for like 3 days straight. It was.
Yeah, so it starts February 16th, ends the 18th, but actually I think on the 16th, like, there's no sessions, there may be some
That's all right.
gatherings, it's, meet and greets. but-
I'm leaving on Wednesday,
Yeah.
Mhm.
my birthday,
That's when he's gone, the 19th through
straight through.
Sunday the 2nd. He'll be back for the 3rd. You think?
Yes, I'll be back.
Okay.
Is that it for board reports?
I think so.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I have a comment. I usually attend the, what is it called, the open space quarterly meetings that they for Suffolk County Real Estate, and we had the honor of having the smallest acquisition this year. That was the Mildred Flower Hurd property that was over off of Overlook, those two little corners. So we obviously have access to those two little corners over there, okay? But it was kind of funny when you listen to everybody with, 50 acres, 30 acres, and of course, we had obviously the Tuttle property, but we had the honor of being the smallest acquisition they made this year.
How big is that property? A quarter acre?
No, it's I think it's only a little triangle, like maybe, it's just enough to have the access on that back
square
road.
feet,
Okay,
yeah.
and that'll be what you'll be doing very soon, okay?
Passing on the work already. All right, so I would like to close the work session and reopen the special meeting so that we can do some resolutions.
You do.
So I'll make that motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, I'll start with the calendar one. See, oh, we got that too. Okay. All right, so be it resolved that the regular meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Shelter Island will be held at 6 p.m. at Shelter Island Town Hall, Shelter Island, New York, following dates: January 6th and 27th, February 24th, March 17th, April 7th and 28th, May 19th, June 9th and 30th, July 21st, August 11th, September 8th and 29th, October 20th, November 10th, December 1st and 22nd of 2025. Be it further resolved that work sessions in the Town Board of the Town of Shelter Island will be held at 1 p.m. in the Shelter Island Town Hall on the following dates: January 7th, 14th, February 4th and 11th, March 4th, 11th and 18th, April 1st, 8th, 15th and 22nd, May 6th and May 13th and 20th, June 3rd, 10th, 7th and 17th, July 1st, 8th, 15th and 22nd, August 5th, 12th and 19th, September 9th, 16th and 23rd, October 7th, 21st and 28th, November 8th and November 18th and 25th, December 2nd, 9th and 16th of 2025. And be it further resolved that the following work sessions of the Town Board of the Town of Shelter Island will be held at 6 p.m. in the Shelter Island Town Hall on the following dates: January 28th, February 25th, March 25th, April 29th, June 24th, July 29th, August 26th, and September 30th. So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
It's still
Motion
Ben's
carried.
job, I'm sorry.
Albert, do you want to go with the Murphy? Oh, you have to.
I abstain.
Abstain, yeah. We don't have to leave.
Yeah, I have
Okay.
actually nothing to do with this application, so.
Murphy?
Yeah.
Whereas Thomas and Eileen Murphy have applied for a rebate from the town of Shelter Island under Chapter 88 of the Shelter Island Town Code to install a low nitrogen sanitary system for property located at 14 Sandpiper Road, Shelter Island, New York. And whereas the Water Quality Improvement Advisory Board, WQIAB, has reviewed the project and recommended a conditional rebate of up to $16,000 to be awarded. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby adopts the findings of the WQIAB and approves the applicant for a conditional rebate of up to $16,000 in eligible costs upon completion of the project and subject to the applicant's compliance with and completion of all terms and conditions of the conditional rebate agreement. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution shall be given to the Water Quality Improvement Advisory Board and the Building Department. So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Adopt local law addressing traffic
Yes.
changes in heights?
Mhm.
Oh, wait, it's not me, it's
Want me to
Meg.
read it?
Yeah, that works.
All right. Whereas a public hearing was duly held on Monday, December 16th, 2024, to hear any and all persons either for or against a local law entitled Vehicles and Traffic to make a certain portion of Waverly Place a one-way street. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board does hereby adopt local law number 20 of 2024, which provides as follows. Local law 20 of 2024, a local law amending chapter 126 entitled Vehicles and Traffic to make a certain portion of Waverly Place a one-way street. Be it enacted by the Town Board of the Town of Shelter Island as follows. Section 1, Legislative Intent. The Town Board finds that a dangerous condition exists on Waverly Place between Clinton Avenue and Grand Avenue due to the convergence of ferry line and vehicular traffic looking to merge into the same. combined with general vehicular traffic seeking to head north on Clinton Avenue, with vehicular traffic heading westerly onto the Heights. Therefore, in order to ameliorate said condition, the town board has determined to make Waverly Place between Clinton Avenue and Grand Avenue a one-way street in a westbound direction. Section 2 amendment, section 26-10 of the Town of Shelter Island Code, chapter 126, vehicles and traffic is hereby amended by adding the underlined words as follows. And it's in 126-10, one-way streets, B has been added, Waverly Place westbound from Clinton Avenue to Grand Avenue. Authority, the proposed local law is enacted pursuant to Municipal Home Rule Law 10 and Town Law 137, Section 7. Section 5, severability. If any section or subsection, paragraph, clause, phrase, or provision of this law shall be adjudged invalid or held unconstitutional by any court of competent jurisdiction, any judgment made thereby shall not affect the validity of this law as a whole or any part thereof other than the part provision so adjudged to be invalid or unconstitutional. Effective date, this local law shall take effect upon filing with Secretary of State pursuant to Municipal Home Rule Law. So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Whereas pursuant, and you don't have to leave, Gordon, you just have to abstain when I call for abstentions. Whereas pursuant to New York State Law, Section 64-E8, a public hearing was held on December 17th. Wait, 17th, yeah. 2024, in connection with the potential acquisition of 7 South Cartwright Road, more specifically identified as Suffolk County Tax Map Number 700-15-4-135, and whereas the total purchase price of the subject parcels is $3,900,000 to be paid with community preservation funds, whereas the town board has determined that this acquisition is the best alternative for the protection of community character of all the reasonable alternatives available to the town, namely passive recreational use. Now I messed it up. I'm sorry. Let me go back. All reasonable alternatives available to the town, namely the establishment of a park, nature preserve, or recreational or educational area. Now therefore, be it resolved that the town board approves the subject acquisition and town supervisor is hereby authorized to sign and/or execute any and all documents in connection with the purchase of the property. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
That's you.
Abstentions?
You abstain.
You're abstaining.
I'm saying,
Yes. Motion carried.
Set public hearing.
Mhm.
Set public hearing. Liberty Lawn Care Site Plan Review. Whereas pursuant to Shelter Island Town Code, Section 109, Walter Richards has submitted a site plan review application on behalf of Liberty Lawn Care, owner of 17 North Ferry Road, designated as tax map 700-15-3-94, to construct commercial building to serve landscape business, building to be served by on-site well and IA septic, 3,179 square feet, will be used for equipment storage and maintenance, 1,625 square feet to be used for office and meeting rooms with bathroom. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby calls for a public hearing to be held at 6:12 p.m. prevailing time on the 27th day of January 2025 at the Shelter Island Town Hall, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed application. So moved.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. You get to read the next one.
we'll get this, okay?
It's a couple meetings to get.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Whereas Shelter Island Town Code 109, J. Card has submitted a site plan review application on behalf of Gardeners Bay Country Club, 12 Dinah Rock Road, designated as tax map number 700-3-2-32.1 to install an underground 1 116,000 gallon concrete holding tank for retention of irrigation water, install a pump and speed system to deliver water throughout the irrigation system. Construct a small garage building to hold a pump equipment and electronics. Collect storm water runoff into the system and install emergency generator in the future. Berm around the building with plantings to be screened from neighbors. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby calls for a public hearing to be held at 6:10 p.m. prevailing time on the 27th day of January 2025 in Shelter Island Town Hall for all interested parties to be heard in favor or in opposition to the proposed application. So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Jesus.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Man, oh man, okay.
Whereas Alfred Loretto, 2 East Branda Parkway, has requested permission to perform a maintenance dredge as per DEC permit number 1-473200353-0009 to dredge plus or minus 23 feet by 39 feet private boat basin and plus or minus 15 feet by 20 feet shoaling on the east side of the bulkhead to 4 feet below mean low water, resulting in plus or minus 100 cubic yards sand silt to be taken to an approved upland source. Now therefore be it resolved that a public hearing should be held at 6:02 p.m. prevailing time on the 27th day of January 2025 in the Shelter Island Town Hall. 2024?
No, 25, you're right.
Okay, this one.
Yeah, you got it.
In the Shelter Island Town Hall, Shelter Island, New York, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed construction. So move.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, I would like to make a motion to close the special meeting.
Second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now, I guess I shouldn't close the work session, because now we're back in the work session to then go into executive session to discuss the employment history of an employee. Okay. Favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.